Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto stops caring about chunin exams. Before I start, please support for more amazing content, and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by UzumakiGal3113 and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. He stood in the Hokage's office, completely numb to the world around him. No, numb wasn't the right word. Perhaps there were too many emotions for him to process. His heart and mind were so crushed he wasn't sure what to do. He wasn't even sure what he felt. Naruto stared at the Hokage with a dead look. The lack of life in his blue eyes were a stark contrast to his bright orange jumpsuit and sunny yellow hair. The look on his face just didn't seem right on him. Usually people would see a face-splitting smile complimenting his whisker birthmarks. No, this was not an ordinary sight for the Hokage. He had seen him sad before, but not like this. Lord Hiruzen was speaking to the boy, but Naruto couldn't hear it. He saw his lips moving, but sounds were drowned out by his own thoughts. It felt as though the world was caving in on him. So much had happened to him in just a short amount of time. A giant mass of information had been shoved into his brain. On top of that, a complete roller coaster of emotions had slammed into him all at once. Shock, realization, hate, sadness, grief, and most of all anger. Yes, anger was his strongest emotion right now. It consumed his entire being, making it difficult for him to keep from shaking, made it almost a chore to breathe. He wasn't sure what to do with all of this anger. Should he throw it in the face of the villagers? Should he try to swallow it? What to do? What? Naruto! Are you listening? Sure, old man, whatever. Naruto's words sounded more rude and harsh than usual, even to himself. But he couldn't help it. More importantly, he couldn't be made to care at the moment. Everyone had been keeping the biggest secret in the world from him, the Hokage included. A secret he felt as though he should have known about a long time ago. The nine-tailed fox, the beast that destroyed Konoha and killed his parents, was sealed inside of him. Now it made sense why he constantly heard the whispers, why everyone seemed to direct their cold glares his way, why parents told their children to stay away from him, when all he wanted was one friend. Lord Hiruzen decided it best to brush off Naruto's cold tone. After all, he had been through a huge ordeal, it was understandable. The elder Hokage directed his serious gaze at the orange jumpsuit-clad boy from under his Kage hat. Naruto, I know this must be a shock for you to know, but now that you do there are other things you must be aware of as well. Naruto instantly stiffened and glared at the Hokage. Let me guess, more secrets being kept from me, old man? Why is it that everyone thinks they can control my life? Why is everyone picking and choosing what I get to know about my own damn self? It's my life. I should know, you're right. The Hokage cut him off. Naruto's eyes widened, and he was stunned into silence. He hadn't expected the old man to actually agree with him. He was expecting some speech about how it was for his own good, and he wasn't ready. Seeing that he had the boy's attention, Hiruzen continued, You're completely right, Naruto. I must take the full blame for that. I made the decision to keep this secret from you. I even made the law after you were born to make it illegal for anyone to talk about the Nine Tails. It was a mistake, I see that now. Perhaps if I had allowed you and everyone else to discuss it freely, people could have gotten used to the idea. Maybe not. Nevertheless, the decree did not help a thing. I had hoped that if I could keep you in the dark long enough and keep people from talking about it, that you would have a chance at a normal life. That was my hope for you, Naruto. I always intended to tell you, but I put it off because I knew it would add a huge burden to your life. Hiruzen then bowed his head, shocking the boy further. I'm sorry, Naruto. I truly am. I should have told you long ago, and prepared you for the life of a Jinchuriki. However, I let my personal feelings get in the way of my better judgment. I waited far too long. I'm sorry, Gramps. Naruto wasn't sure what to say. He didn't know the old man cared about him so much. He knew now he couldn't lump the Hokage in with everyone else. The old man was just looking out for him. Although Naruto was still angry, and couldn't forgive him just yet, he was able to understand why he did it. Hiruzen raised his head, and Naruto noticed he now wore a very serious expression, almost grim. Naruto, I've learned now that keeping secrets from you is only going to hurt you in the long run. So, I'm going to tell you everything. 12 years ago, on the day you were born, the Nine Tails was extracted from its Jinchuriki and attacked the village. The previous Jinchuriki was Kushina Uzumaki, your mother. Naruto felt as though he had been kicked in the stomach, his breath leaving his lungs. His mother was the Nine Tails container? Kushina Uzumaki. That's my mom's name. I always wondered what her name was. The Hokage continued on, You see, ordinarily if a Jinchuriki is separated from its tailed beast, they will die instantly. However, those of the Uzumaki clan possess powerful life forces, as well as chakra. This makes them perfect for containing the Nine Tails. That being said, Kushina survived the initial removal. She was even able to restrain the Nine Tails after she had been through childbirth and the extraction. Your mother was an incredibly powerful kunoichi, Naruto, and an even greater woman. Naruto wanted to comment, he wanted to say something, anything at all, but he couldn't seem to get the words out. Anticipation was killing the words on his tongue. He was learning about his past, about his mother. He dare not interrupt. Kushina had decided she wanted to take the Ninetales with her to her death, and in doing so protect you and the village. However, the Ninetales is not something that can be killed permanently. It will eventually manifest again, and without a host it would be out of control. The fourth Hokage knew this, so he decided that would not be an option. He had to protect the village, and you Naruto, his only son. Naruto felt his heart stop. He hadn't heard him right. The fourth Hokage was his father? No way, no way. That couldn't be right. The old man was making stuff up. Naruto felt his breathing become heavier, a weight placing itself on his chest. Again, he was desperate to speak, to scream even, but it felt like his throat was closing up. Seeing that Naruto wasn't going to verbally respond, Hiruzen decided to finish the story. Minato knew that his only option would be to seal the Ninetales into you. Kushina was dying, she would not be able to contain the beast any longer, and he would not be able to handle the beast with his own chakra either. However, he also knew that the entirety of the Ninetales would not be able to be sealed into a newborn baby. So he gave his life to split the beast's chakra in half using the Reaper Death Seal. He sealed one half inside himself, and the other half into you Naruto, making you the Ninetales Jinchuriki. Naruto, I have to tell you now that being a Jinchuriki is a huge responsibility, and Naruto? Naruto could not hear him. He had tuned him out after he had heard that his own father had sealed a monster inside of him. He couldn't comprehend it. Shock seeped deep into him, dread creeping up his spine. Why would he want to seal the Ninetales inside of his own son? My own father did this to me, and there's nothing I can do. I'm stuck with the Ninetales until death. This can't be happening, this can't be happening. Naruto felt like he couldn't breathe. The more he tried sucking in air, the worse the feeling became. He could hear nothing beyond the pounding in his head. His heart hurt him horribly, and he began to clutch his chest, trying to get the agonizing pain to stop. His vision started to blur, and he began to sway back and forth. The Hokage scrambled out from behind his desk, seeing that the boy was about to collapse. He reached him just in time before his head hit the floor. He looked at Naruto's face, and noticed the bags under his eyes and the sweat on his brow. He also took note of how pale Naruto appeared. He realized he had made another huge mistake. What was I thinking? I should have waited until tomorrow to tell him. After everything that has happened tonight, Mizuki's betrayal and murder of Iruka, learning about the Ninetales, and now this? It's no wonder he passed out. He needs to rest. Hiruzen decided he would continue this conversation with Naruto after he allowed the boy to get some rest. He called an ANBU into his office to take Naruto home so that he could get some sleep. Hiruzen decided that he would check on Naruto in the morning. After all, in a few days Naruto would be sorted into a team with a Jounin sensei. He would need to be in the correct mindset. Naruto awoke in his own bed, after a grueling nightmare. He woke up in a cold sweat, his heart racing. No matter how hard he tries, he couldn't seem to get enough air into his aching lungs. He had a dream that he was sinking in water, and more he sunk, the darker his surroundings became. A hand reached out to him, but when he grabbed the hand he immediately found himself face to face with the Ninetales. When he turned to run away, he found himself held in place by the familiar icy stare of the villagers. He became angry, he tried to scream at them to go away, but no noise came out. Then, everyone around him disappeared, except for a long figure that came into view. It was Iruka sensei. He could only stare at the only person to acknowledge him, to fully accept him. Naruto. You let me die. How could you? That was when he awoke. It was true. Naruto was entirely consumed by guilt. It was his fault. Iruka sensei had died protecting him. The windmill shuriken plunged through his back. He could still remember Iruka telling him how he was sorry for not being there for him more, that he fully accepted him, and that he knew that Naruto was his own person, and not the Ninetales. He told Naruto that he was proud of him. Then, he saw the light leave his eyes. Iruka sensei was the only person to acknowledge him, and now he's gone. Now, all he has is a demon fox inside of him to keep him company. No friends, no family, no parents. His mind began to replay his conversation with the Hokage. He was embarrassed remembering how he had passed out. He couldn't help it, the feeling had come on so fast, he could feel himself spinning out of control. The news about his mom being the previous Jinchuriki and his father being the Hokage was a shock to his system. Even now he was finding it nearly impossible to process. He would give anything to speak to his father, to ask him if there could have been another way. Why did it have to be Naruto that was chosen? Why did his father need to sacrifice himself? He inwardly scolded himself for feeling this way, it was so unlike him. However, Naruto felt as though he was reaching his breaking point. All the pain and loneliness throughout his life, and now this? It was beginning to take its toll on him. Naruto glanced at the clock and saw that it was still too early to get up. It was 3 a.m. He wanted to go back to sleep, his body was begging for it, but his mind was wide awake. How could he be expected to sleep now? Even the prospect of a cup of ramen was far away in the back of his mind. He couldn't think of anything else except what had happened to him ever since he managed to squeak by the genin exams and finally pass. Flashback. Naruto was practically skipping out of the academy. He had done it. He finally passed, and now he would be a genin. He could finally display his headband proudly on his forehead. He was now officially a ninja, and one step closer to his dream of becoming Hokage. Naruto was so happy he hardly took notice of the glares and whispers that followed him wherever he went. He never really knew why people treated him as though he had the plague. But at this moment he didn't care. He was a ninja, and soon enough the glares and whispers would turn into smiles and words of praise. He was sure of it. He decided that a celebratory bowl of ramen was in order, so he headed to his favorite restaurant in the village, Ichiraku. As he made his way there, he noticed one of his classmates walking by him. He noticed that, like him, she adorned a leaf headband indicating that she had graduated from the academy. Hinata! What's up? Hey, you got a headband too. Congrats, we're both ninja now. I wonder who'll be on my team. You're curious too, right? Oh wow, this is so cool. Naruto was so excited he couldn't stop himself from rambling. He knew he should let Hinata speak, but the words just kept pouring out of him. Hinata, as usual, was sporting her tan jacket, navy blue pants and sandals along with her blush. Why yes, Naruto-kun, it is exciting. See, congratulations on passing. She scolded herself inwardly for stuttering yet again in front of Naruto. It was almost as if she had no control over it whenever he was nearby, especially when his ocean blue eyes were looking into hers very soul the way they always seemed to do. Thanks, Hinata. Hey, maybe we'll be on the same team, huh? That'd be cool, Naruto actually hoped he'd be on a team with Sakura, but he wouldn't mind being on a team with her either. He thought Hinata was a sweet girl, and she was the only girl in class who had never been mean to him. Why yes, it would be cool, and Naruto-kun. I would like to that. Hinata flashed him a shy smile that he wasn't used to seeing from other people, and it made him feel a warmth in his chest. His stomach let out a gurgle sound, which promptly caused him to blush, remembering where he was going in the first place. Haha, well, I was actually on my way to Ichiraku's to celebrate. Wanna come along? Hinata's face instantly went beet red. She knew he wasn't asking her on a date, but the prospect of sharing a meal with Naruto had her feeling butterflies in her stomach. That would be a nice, Naruto-kun. But I have to get home to tell my father the news. He insisted that I come home right after the exam was over. Perhaps another time? She hoped beyond hope that he would say yes. Sure. Sounds fun, Hinata. See you later. He felt even more cheerful now than he had before. Hinata sure is weird, but I like people like her, she's so nice. He thought. With that, Naruto ran off and continued his trek to Ichiraku, leaving the blushing Hyuga behind. Once there, he told Tsuchi that he had passed, and he let Naruto have as many bowls as we wanted on the house. Naruto had ordered 5 bowls of miso with extra pork, and scarfed them all down easily. Afterwards he decided it was best to head home for the evening. However, before he was able to make it back to his apartment, he heard someone calling for him. Naruto! Wait up! Naruto turned to see a man with silver hair with a bandana on top. The bandana held the leaf symbol on the front. He also adorned the standard leaf flak jacket worn by Chunin and Jonin. Mizuki-sensei. What's up? The man looked down at Naruto with a cheerful expression. Well, Naruto, I just wanted to say congratulations on passing the exam and becoming a genin. You must have worked hard. Naruto couldn't help but grin at that. Of course he had worked hard. Harder than anyone else. You bet. I worked my butt off, That's what I like to hear, Naruto. Tell you what, I don't normally do this, but I like you, Naruto, so as a reward for passing I'm going to let you in on a little secret. His eyes lit up at that. He was getting worked up all over again. What could it be? A new jutsu? I brand new kunai? What is it, Mizuki-sensei? Well, in the Hokage's office, there's a scroll called the Scroll of Sealing. It contains high-level forbidden jutsu, and if you can sneak into the office and learn even one jutsu, you'll be revered throughout the village for your abilities. Naruto couldn't believe it. A high-level forbidden jutsu? How could he say no to that? He just had to get that scroll and learn a jutsu from it. Then he would definitely get the villagers to look on him with admiration. Yeah. Alright. I'm in, Mizuki-sensei. I'll definitely learn a jutsu from that scroll. Perfect, the Chunin thought to himself. Okay, Naruto, tonight when the sun sets go in and grab the scroll. Here, I'll write down the directions of where you should meet up with me. From there I'll help you learn one of the jutsus. Deal? Mizuki couldn't believe how well this was going. Deal. Alright. See you then. Naruto took the paper with directions to the location and sped off towards his apartment. Man, this day is going perfect. This just might be the best day ever. After the sun had set, Naruto made his way out of the Hokage Tower. Stealing the scroll had been child's play for him. After all, Naruto was the king of being sneaky. He had to be considering how many pranks he had successfully pulled off over the years. After Naruto had secured the scroll, he took out the paper with directions on it that Mizuki had given him, and ran off into the woods. Oh man, this is so exciting. I can't wait for Mizuki-sensei to see what I can do. Naruto thought to himself. He was so anxious and jittery. He felt like he was finally getting the opportunities he needed to prove himself. When Naruto arrived at the clearing, he noticed that Mizuki wasn't there yet. He decided that instead of waiting around doing nothing, he would break open the scroll and try to learn a new jutsu all on his own. Yeah, then Mizuki-sensei will really be impressed. After practicing for about an hour, Naruto had finally managed to successfully learn a jutsu from the scroll. He was lying on the ground, completely exhausted from his training. He wiped sweat from his forehead and let out a long sigh. Man, I didn't even need Mizuki-sensei. I must be awesome. I can't wait to show him the shadow clone jutsu. I wonder when he'll get here. Just then, Naruto heard a rustling noise in the trees. He turned around expecting to see Mizuki, but saw someone else staring at him instead. Iruka-sensei. What are you doing out here? The chunin looked at Naruto with a confused expression. He wore the standard leaf headband and flak jacket. He had tan skin, brown hair tied into a ponytail, and a scar across his nose. I could ask the same of you, Naruto. Just what were you thinking taking the scroll of sealing? Why would you do that? Mizuki-sensei told me about it. He told me about how if I could get the scroll and learn a jutsu from it, that I would get all kinds of recognition from the village. He said it was a reward for passing my exam and becoming a genin. Naruto explained. He looked up at Iruka with a face-splitting grin. He couldn't contain his excitement. Iruka was now even more confused. What? No, Naruto, that's not. Come on, Iruka-sensei, let me show you the jutsu I learned. It's so cool. I was just waiting for Mizuki-sensei. He told me to meet him here. Now I get it, Iruka thought to himself. Naruto, Mizuki lied to you. The scroll of sealing was hidden for a reason. Everyone is out trying to find it. There's no reward for learning a jutsu from it. Come on, we have to get back to Iruka. Both Naruto and Iruka stopped dead in their tracks. Iruka recognized that voice anywhere. He reluctantly turned to face the owner of the voice. Mizuki. Don't bother trying to explain. I've figured it out. It's over. Oh really? Naruto, don't listen to Iruka, he just wants the scroll for himself. That's why he's trying to get it away from you. Huh? Naruto blurted out. He was confused beyond belief. Why would Iruka-sensei do that? But he said Mizuki-sensei was the liar. So who was lying? Naruto, don't listen to him, he's the one who's lying. He got you to steal the scroll so that he could take it from you. Iruka explained. Oh, I'll tell you who's lying, Mizuki began. They've been lying to you your whole life, Naruto. What? What do you mean? Iruka began to panic. And no. Mizuki, don't. That's right, everyone's been lying to you, ever since the decree 12 years ago. What is this decree? What's it about? Naruto's curiosity was getting the better of him. He couldn't help but wonder what in the world was going on. People were lying to him? About what? Iruka was getting desperate. He couldn't allow Naruto to find out this way, not like this. Stop. It's forbidden. Mizuki ignored him. The decree is no one is allowed to tell you that the nine-tailed fox is inside you. Naruto fell backwards, unable to stand. His legs had decided to stop working. Wait, what did he say? Didn't you think it was strange how they treated you? Like they hated you for just being alive? The fox spirit that killed Iruka's parents has taken over your body. You are the nine-tailed fox. Mizuki spat at him. Naruto couldn't comprehend what he was hearing. All he could think was no. No, no, no. 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 Now die, Nine-Tails. Mizuki screamed as he pulled out a windmill shuriken and hurled it directly at Naruto. Naruto, get down! Iruka screamed. Naruto tried to move, tried to run away, but it was as if his legs were made of jelly. His body simply would not obey him. He had never been so scared in his life. When he realized he was done for, he turned his body and braced himself for impact. But the impact never came. Naruto slowly opened his eyes, only to look up and see his sensei hovering over him, protecting him with his body. Naruto was stunned at what Iruka had done. He had saved his life. He didn't understand. But why? Naruto asked him. That was all he could think to say. Why? Why would Iruka-sensei do that for him? It didn't make any sense. Iruka looked down at him, eyes filled with tears and a pained expression. Because you're like me. After my parents died, I was so lonely. No one seemed to care or have any time for me. So I became the class clown and did some stupid things to get attention, and I paid for it. It was hard, and so painful. I know that's how you feel, Naruto, right? Naruto's eyes widened even further. Does he understand me after all? Tears began to flow freely down Iruka's face. You're lonely and it hurts inside. I should have been there for you more, and I'm sorry, Naruto. Naruto began to tear up at Iruka's words. Iruka-sensei, please! Mizuki yelled. Iruka's always hated you for killing his parents. He despises you. No, that's not true at all. Iruka responded immediately. Naruto is his own person, not the Nine-Tails. Naruto is one of a kind, loyal, determined, and strong. Sure, he gets into trouble sometimes and gets jumped on, but his suffering only makes him stronger. And he is someone that I am so proud of. So you see, he's nothing like the nine-tailed fox. He is a ninja of Konohagakure, and his name is Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto could no longer hold in his emotions at Iruka's statement. He was overwhelmed that someone thought of him that way. Someone, finally, had accepted him for who he was. His chest began to constrict, and he felt a happiness that he had never known. Tears began to fall down his cheeks rapidly, as all the years of pain and loneliness came bursting forth, unable to be forced down any longer. Iruka had successfully brought down the mask Naruto had put up for his entire life. Naruto stood up, with a newfound determination. This wasn't just about him anymore. Naruto had someone that he wanted to protect. After all, he owed Iruka-sensei his life. He had to defeat Mizuki right here. If you ever hurt my sensei again, I'll kill you, he growled. Go ahead and give it your best shot, Ninetales. Mizuki dared him. Multi-shadow clone jutsu, he screamed. Suddenly there were puffs of smoke everywhere. Mizuki froze, unaware of what was happening. After the smoke had cleared, the clearing was filled with nearly 100 Narutos. Mizuki just stared at the many Narutos, mouth agape, eyes wide. What? He actually learned that jutsu? All at once, the many Narutos launched themselves at Mizuki, overwhelming him with numbers and beating him to a pulp. He wanted to unleash all of his fury, all of his anger and hatred, but he inevitably held back. Naruto didn't want to kill him, he wouldn't stoop to his level. Iruka had put his faith in him, he wouldn't let him down. Once Mizuki was down and out, Naruto released the jutsu and ran back over to his sensei. Upon seeing the state of his teacher, Naruto began to weep again. Even to him, someone who has never witnessed death, he could tell Iruka was running out of time. Iruka-sensei, hang on! Hang on! Please! He cried desperately. Naruto, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna make it. I've lost too much blood. Naruto, stay strong. You can become Hokage one day, I just know it. And with those words, Iruka's eyes closed and his body went limp. Iruka-sensei, Iruka-sensei. Please wake up. He begged, pleaded over and over for him to wake up, but he never did. Finally, exhausted and overcome with grief, Naruto passed out just as he could make out the silhouette of the Hokage running to him. That makes twice that I've passed out today, geez. He thought to himself. He wasn't sure how to go on at this point. He had never felt more alone in his entire life. He wondered how things could have been different if Iruka had survived. Maybe Iruka would have praised him for learning the jutsu. They would have explained everything to the Hokage and Mizuki would be locked up. Then, his sensei would take him to Ichiraku's and they could get some ramen. Everything would be okay, because he finally would have someone who accepted him. Who cares now? Stop thinking like that. He scolded himself. He had to remind himself that it didn't matter if that's how it could have been. Iruka-sensei was gone, and he needed to deal with that however he could, and find a way to move on. He wasn't sure how long it would take, but he was determined to move on somehow. He decided that he would live his life making his sensei proud. He would become Hokage. Naruto never went back to sleep after waking up in the early hours of the morning. After laying in bed until 7:30, he decided the night as well eat something. He decided on the usual, cup ramen and a glass of milk. Right as the water was brought to a boil and he was about to pour it into his cup, there was a knock on the door. Who would be here so early? He thought to himself, as he lazily made his way towards the door. He opened it to find none other than the Hokage standing before him. Hiruzen stood frozen as he took in the boy's appearance. His hair was standing more on end than usual, as though he had been tugging on it. He still had bags under his eyes, and he seemed a bit pale. It was clear to him that Naruto had not rested well like Hiruzen had hoped we would. Good morning, Naruto, may I come in? He asked, trying to be polite. He was going to speak with Naruto whether he invited him in or not. Naruto, still being a bit out of it, took a few seconds to respond. Seeing the Hokage made him feel nervous all over again. I'm sure I guess. Sorry about the mess. That's quite alright, Naruto. I won't stay long, Hiruzen assured him. I simply wanted to allow you some time to rest before I spoke to you again. Naruto nearly laughed at that. He hadn't rested much at all. However, he wanted to get this conversation over with, so he wouldn't object. He allowed the Hokage to enter and showed him to the couch, where the both of them sat down. Naruto, I'm sorry I sprung all of that information on you last night. You were exhausted and I hadn't taken that into consideration. Naruto was feeling embarrassed again, remembering how he had collapsed. No worries, Gramps, it's fine really. I'm okay. That was a lie, of course, but he truly wanted to be okay. He would try to be okay. Nevertheless, it was a mistake, and I do apologize. Hiruzen paused for a moment, trying to find the words for what he wanted to say next. Naruto, now that you know that you are a Jinchuriki, there are a few things you should know about what that entails. Other than being hated by everyone in the village? Naruto said to himself immediately, though he decided to keep that particular thought to himself. Like what? Well, first of all, the Nine-Tails is only one of 9-tailed beasts in total, scattered across the 5 great nations. Each beast currently has a Jinchuriki, people just like you. In fact, I believe the Sand Village's Jinchuriki is your age, Naruto. Naruto's eyes widened, and his mouth opened, but again nothing came out. Just like last night, he wanted to respond but couldn't seem to find the words. All of this new information was maddening to him. There was one question, however, that kept flitting around in his mind. Naruto finally managed to force his mouth to move. Old man, the others that are like me, are they treated the same way I'm treated? He asked hesitantly. He had an idea of what the answer was, but he truly wanted to know. Hiruzen looked down at his lap, unable to meet Naruto's gaze. Unfortunately, most of the time that is the case. While those such as the Mizukage and the Reikage brother have managed to become respected in their villages, most who carry a tailed beast struggle to find peace among others. I wish I could tell you the opposite, but I want to be honest. I'm sorry, Naruto. It's fine, really. I kind of figured that was the case. And to him, it really was fine. It was actually kind of nice to him to know there were others like him out there. He wasn't truly alone, at least not in the grand scheme of things. But in the village? He knew no one would ever understand him here. Naruto, Hiruzen brought him back to reality with his serious tone. Because of the power that you possess, some may try to come after you, take it for their own. Some may even try to influence you one way or another, to try and use you because of your status as a Jinchuriki. Many times in the past, those who contain the tailed beast have been used as weapons in war. Some elders in this village would see you used as just that. Naruto directed his gaze to his feet. His brows furrowed. He couldn't fathom what he was hearing. First these people treat him like dirt, but then they want to use him like some kind of weapon. Naruto began to feel sick to his stomach. However, Hiruzen continued, I won't allow you to be treated like that. You are a shinobi of this village, Naruto, just like the others who graduated with you. I hope one day you learn to control the chakra of the Nine Tails, but I won't force you to undergo that training if you do not wish for it. Naruto's head snapped back up at the Hokage and he allowed a small smile to form on his lips. At least someone was looking out for him. Maybe the Hokage was too busy to see to him all the time, but he could protect him from the elders at least. Thanks, Gramps. I'm not sure what I want to do yet, this is all so new to me. But if I decide to try to control that chakra someday, I'll be sure to let you know. And he meant that. He knew the old man would help him. Please do. I want to help Naruto, in any way I can. Anyway, I'll allow you to get back to your meal. Please try to rest, Naruto. I know it's not easy at the moment, but at least try. And with that, Hiruzen made his way to the door, and closed it behind him as he exited the young boy's small home. Naruto let out a long sigh and went back to making his ramen. He wasn't sure if he'd be able to rest or not, especially if he had another dream like earlier, but he would try. He would try to carry on, for himself, for the old man, and for Iruka-sensei. Naruto tried to rest, he really did, but every time he started to drift off he would be reminded of the nightmare he had. That was enough to instantly jolt him awake every time. He figured the only way he would ever sleep is if he could take his mind off of it for a while. So, he decided to take a walk to his favorite spot, the Hokage Mountain. As he stripped himself of his orange jumpsuit, he made sure to turn the water as hot as he could stand it, hoping it would refresh him at least a little bit. As he stood under the water, letting it run down his hair and face, something inside of him seemed to give way. Before he realized what was happening, Naruto found himself desperately trying in vain to choke back a sob. Seemingly out of nowhere, violent sobs began to rack his body, ripping from his chest in a way he had not experienced before. Salty tears mixed with the water from the shower, and he placed both hands on the wall trying to hold himself up. He wasn't sure where this was coming from. Maybe the culmination of all his pain over the years coupled with his sensei's death was affecting him even more than he had known, which was saying a lot, because he was already finding it difficult to carry on. Naruto tried to slow his breathing, calm his body down, but it wasn't working very well. It was as if his body was forcing out the emotional baggage he had been forcing down. He felt like a complete wreck. When his crying finally died down and Naruto had washed himself, he exited the shower feeling somewhat better. He reasoned that maybe he just needed to cry, needed to get the emotions out of his system. He hoped that wasn't going to become a habit. Naruto threw his towel in the hamper and put on a white t-shirt with a red spiral on the front, along with a pair of orange shorts and his normal sandals. Once he was dressed, he made his way out of his apartment and began leaping from rooftop to rooftop. It was quicker this way, and he knew he wouldn't run into too many people. Naruto was finally nearing his destination. He could make out the heads of the former Hokage just up ahead. He was nearly at the top when he noticed someone already sitting on the fourth Hokage's head. As he got closer, he realized that he recognized the person. She was short, the only girl his age shorter than him. She had silky-looking indigo hair, and was sporting a familiar tan jacket and navy blue pants. Hinata? Naruto called out to her. She immediately jumped at his voice. It was clear she thought she was alone. She slowly turned her head and Naruto noticed her face was as red as ever. Man, I wonder why her face is so red all of the time. I wonder if she has a fever or something. Hello Naruto-kun. She greeted him in a quiet tone. Hey, what's up? What ya doing up here? Hinata tried to steel her nerves as best she could. You're finally alone with him. Stop being weird. She practically screamed to herself. Well, I come up here sometimes to think. It's nice. She explained. She was inwardly thrilled that she had not stuttered. Yeah, me too. It's quiet. And no one looks at me funny up here. Anyway, I'm sorry to bother you, Hinata, I'll just go. He said with a dejected look on his face. This did not go unnoticed by Hinata. The normally exuberant, cheerful boy seemed completely different. He seemed sad. Wait. Naruto-kun. She blurted out. Her normal shyness was overtaken for a moment by her concern for him. Naruto turned back to her, caught off guard by her tone. He'd never heard her get so loud before. You can come sit with me if you like. I don't mind. In fact, she blushed a deeper red than before, I would really like it if you did. At this small confession, Naruto began to feel that warmth in his chest he felt whenever he saw her smile yesterday in town. His stomach felt like it was twisting in knots. He couldn't stop the grin that had managed to find its way to his face. Thanks, Hinata, I'd like that, you know. With that, he walked over next to Hinata and sat down on his dad's stone head. As he did, he flashed her his famous Naruto Uzumaki smile. For once that day, he seemed to forget about his nightmare. Naruto had finally managed to make it back home after his time with Hinata. His mind felt more at ease, and with that he plopped down on the bed. He thought that perhaps now he would be able to get some rest. However, now his mind was filled with other thoughts. The time that Naruto spent with Hinata on the mountain top was the best time he had had in a while. They had stayed there for hours, just talking, but he had loved every minute of it. Hinata was not like most people he knew, far from it. She was patient, kind, and really seemed interested in what he had to say. Sometimes he would say something that he knew others would say was stupid, but Hinata never once said that to him. She was always so nice to him. She even said she believed he could be Hokage. When almost nobody believes in you, it's nice to know that someone out there believes you can achieve your dream. She was confusing to him though. He never knew why she always blushed and stuttered around him so much. She was a strange girl indeed. Something else he didn't understand was these strange feelings he would get around her. Whenever she smiled or giggled, the warmth in his chest would grow. His heart would beat just a little faster. He would try anything he could to get her to do it again. At one point their hands had brushed, and it sent a tingly feeling throughout his entire body. When he was with her, he felt he could just be himself. He didn't feel that way with anyone else. It was nice. This must be what it's like to have a true friend, he thought. However, his mind kept reminding him of a simple fact. He was the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. Would she still treat him that way if she knew what he was? The villagers knew, and they all hated him. Would she hate him too? The thought alone made his chest ache, and instantly sapped away his good mood. The thought of Hinata hating him was too much, he couldn't bear it. He decided right then and there, she could never know the truth. Maybe he was being selfish, but he was starting to feel what it was like to have a friend, and he didn't want to give it up just yet. With his mind finally off of the nightmare, and his decision about Hinata made, Naruto finally allowed himself to drift off to sleep. His body was no longer able to keep him awake any longer. Not only did he sleep, but he slept dreamlessly all day and night. Finally, he was able to get some rest. Naruto awoke the next morning feeling completely refreshed. He felt as though the tension in his body had vanished entirely, and he was in a much better mood. He knew tomorrow he would figure out who his teammates were. He had almost forgotten about all of that in the craziness of the last couple of days, but he wanted to try to focus on it now. He had decided to try to move on and get stronger, and he knew this was his best shot at doing so. After all, he still had his dream of becoming Hokage someday. Naruto decided to get some training in. He was feeling more determined than usual after a good night's rest. He wanted to impress his teammates and his new sensei, whoever they were. Of course he had hoped Sakura would be on his team, but now he realized it didn't matter who it was. He would work his hardest to be an outstanding teammate and a powerful shinobi, and for him, that meant he would have to train even harder than he did to pass the academy graduation exam. Naruto snapped out of his thoughts as the training grounds came into view. He grinned, and started running towards the empty field. Once he sat down his things and got settled, he tried out his new favorite jutsu, multi-shadow clone jutsu. He shouted, as puffs of smoke began to fill the air around him. The smoke cleared, and in the training ground one could now find 50 Narutos. After his clones were created, Naruto began sparring with all of them, desperate to improve his taijutsu. As Naruto was fighting, pushing himself to the max, he was unaware of a familiar pair of pale lavender eyes watching him from a distance. Hinata was no stranger to watching Naruto, that was for sure. Maybe she went a bit overboard sometimes, but she couldn't help it. Ever since Naruto had rescued her from those bullies all those years ago, he had become her hero, her inspiration. She watched as he continuously persevered despite all the obstacles he faced. People treated him poorly, something that confused her, and their classmates would make fun of him for messing up. He had a hard life, no parents, and no friends or family. But time and time again, Naruto would keep going with a smile on his face. Many times before, Hinata had found herself almost giving up, or feeling sorry for herself. Her father always favored her sister, and she could never seem to do anything to gain his approval. But when she started to feel down on herself, she would think of Naruto and realize that if he could keep going, then there was no reason for her to give up. He became her goal. Before she knew it, her admiration had turned into a crush, which had then turned into love. Yes, she was young, but she knew what she felt for the blonde. Every time she saw his smile, she felt her chest get warm and butterflies in her stomach. She couldn't help the blush and stutter that came to the surface whenever she would speak with him. She would try so hard to act natural, but she was never good at pretending. His sunny disposition and his blue eyes that were so full of life would hypnotize her, making her unable to calm her unusual behavior. A few times she had even fainted in front of him. That was until yesterday. When she had gotten a good look at his face and heard him speak, she knew something was wrong. She knew her Naruto-kun, and she had never seen him look like that before. She had never heard him sound so defeated. When he got close enough, she noticed the dark circles, his pale clammy skin, and his eyes. That was what unnerved her the most. She had always been so in love with his eyes, they always held a unique spark to them. However, yesterday when he approached her, what she saw were eyes that were dead, no spark to be found. Normally if he had walked away, she would have let him go with no objection. She would have been too shy to ask him to stay, but when she saw his eyes, her shyness didn't matter anymore. She wasn't sure if she could help him, but she couldn't let him be alone. She didn't know what was wrong, and it didn't matter. If he wanted to tell her he would, and if he didn't then that was okay too, as long as she could find a way to make him smile again, to bring the spark back to his eyes, that was all she cared about. To her delight, when he had agreed to stay with her he had flashed her his famous smile. Oh, that smile! It completely melted her heart. She had spent a few hours with Naruto on the Hokage mountain, and it had been everything she had hoped for. She had never laughed so much in her entire life, and slowly but surely her stuttering faded away in the presence of her love. She was incredibly happy to see the spark slowly return to his eyes the longer he was with her. She wasn't sure what she had done to help him, but she was thrilled that she had. At one point their hands had brushed each other, and she could have sworn there was a jolt of electricity that had shot through her skin at the contact. Being with Naruto was like nothing else. As she watched him train, she found herself being motivated all over again. Whatever had been troubling him was still not enough to stop him from pushing himself. She was continuously amazed at his determination. She knew he would achieve his dream of becoming Hokage. No one in the village worked as hard as he did. Hinata had finally decided to head back home, knowing her father would be wondering where she was soon enough. He had wanted to speak to her about serving the village as a genin, and what would be expected from her as a Hyuga. He had already given this speech to her cousin Niji, though she had a feeling it would be different for her. Niji was a genius, much more skilled than she was. People expected a lot from him, and he always delivered. She, on the other hand, was constantly disappointing her father. Hopefully if she pushed herself like Naruto did, she would eventually be able to please him. No matter what, even if her father never gave her his approval, she would keep going. As long as Naruto kept moving forward, so would she. That would always be the case, even if he never returned her love. She never expected anything from him except to be Naruto, and that was enough. The next day came soon enough, and Naruto was feeling a bit better today. He had a couple of nightmares, but he was hoping that they would go away in time. Sleep had been elusive, but he had gotten just enough to get himself out of bed and on his way to the academy. He wondered who would be on his team. He wondered if maybe Hinata would be on his team with him. That would be ideal, considering she was his only real friend. He could only hope that would be the case. Whoever it was, he hoped that his teammates would be supportive and would complement his abilities well. He made his way down the hallway and stopped in front of the familiar classroom door. His heart started to beat faster, and his breathing became a bit labored. The last time he was here, Iruka-sensei was giving him the graduation exam. He could still remember the cheerful look on his face when Naruto had managed to pass. Even though Naruto had barely gotten by, Iruka had been proud of him. Naruto took a few deep breaths, attempting to calm himself. Iruka-sensei wouldn't want him to get worked up like this. He would want him to be strong, so that's what he would do. Naruto entered the classroom to see his fellow classmates. As usual, Ino and Sakura were arguing with each other over Sasuke, while Sasuke himself seemed completely disinterested. Shikamaru was dozing off while Choji was stuffing his face with potato chips. Shino was murmuring to himself, or to his bugs, Naruto wasn't sure. Kiba was making small talk with Hinata while his puppy Akamaru rested on his head and wagged his tail. Hinata had seemingly stopped paying attention to Kiba once she had noticed Naruto enter the room. His lips involuntarily curved into a smile when his eyes met hers, and she instantly looked down at her desk and blushed a deep crimson. Cute Naruto immediately thought to himself, "Wait, whoa, where did that come from?" Naruto shook his head, attempting to clear his thoughts. He scanned the room for an empty seat, and found one next to Sasuke. Great, Naruto thought to himself, he and Sasuke never really got along. It was strange. Naruto knew of Sasuke's troubles in the past. His entire clan had been slaughtered. Sasuke was probably the one person who would be able to understand him, and vice versa. By all means, they should be friends, but Naruto could never bring himself to approach him. He would admit, to himself at least, he was jealous. Sasuke wasn't like him. Everyone fawned over him. All the girls seemed to be in love with him. All the teachers praised him constantly, saying that he was a natural, a genius. If Naruto was being honest with himself, Sasuke was everything he wished he could be. That was the main reason Naruto couldn't stand him. He was envious of him, plain and simple. Reluctantly, Naruto made his way down to the open seat next to Sasuke, who seemed to be uncaring and aloof as always. Does he care about anything at all ever? Just as he sat down in his seat, a certain pink-haired girl decided to make her presence known to him. Naruto! Don't sit there! I want to sit next to Sasuke-kun, she shouted. Forget it, billboard brow. Sasuke-kun is mine. I'm sitting next to him. Ino countered. Ino pig. As the girls argued back and forth, Naruto proceeded to take his seat. Ordinarily, Naruto may have tried to convince Sakura to forget about Sasuke, or maybe he would have gotten even more jealous and tried to get in Sasuke's face. But now, it all seemed pointless. Sure, it annoyed him, but Naruto was on a mission and nothing would distract him from it. As he took his seat, the raven-haired boy next to him glanced over at him. What's with you, dope? You seem different. Sasuke questioned him. Naruto was a bit taken back. Was Sasuke actually interested in something for once? Why do you care, team? I'm just curious. I expected you to whine to Sakura like you always do, or try to insult me. It's a change I wasn't anticipating from you. Naruto looked at Sasuke warily. He wasn't usually able to have a normal conversation with him. Usually it was him trying to argue with Sasuke and the raven-haired boy ignoring him with a better-than-you attitude. Naruto had to admit that he was right. That was normally how he would have reacted. A part of him was still irritated that Sakura was still enamored with Sasuke and cared nothing for him, but after everything that's happened it seemed a bit insignificant. He didn't have the time to worry about a crush or a rivalry with Sasuke. He had to make Iruka-sensei and the old man proud. Look, Naruto began, things have changed for me. I don't really feel like telling you about a team, but let's just say that pining over Sakura-chan isn't a priority anymore. Becoming strong is. Sasuke seemed satisfied with that answer. If Naruto didn't know any better, he would have sworn he saw a ghost of a smile grace his lips. HN, came his usual reply. Naruto. Sakura interjected again, you baka. I said I'm sitting next to Sasuke-kun. Move. She began to tug on his sleeve. Naruto furrowed his brow and felt his face get hot with anger. He wasn't sure if he was annoyed with Sakura for ignoring him as usual, or if he was just annoyed with her behavior in general, but he decided to allow his irritation to get the better of him. Sakura-chan, stop. You're not sitting here. I am. Sasuke doesn't even want you to sit next to him. I'm not moving just because you want me to, he declared. Sakura seemed stunned, as did Ino. Clearly that was not the reaction they expected. Ino seemed to back off and took her seat next to Shikamaru, but Sakura wasn't quite ready to let it go. She was crazy about Sasuke, and she wanted every opportunity she could get to be near him. She decided to try a different approach. But Naruto, please? Let me sit next to Sasuke-kun. She bat her eyelashes at him. Naruto knew what she was up to, and he wasn't going to fall for it. He had to admit, she looked cute pouting at him like that, but he knew it was all an act. Sorry Sakura-chan, I'm sitting here. It's no big deal. Besides, we're learning the teams soon. We won't be sitting here long anyway. He reasoned. Sakura looked visibly deflated, but she gave in and took her seat next to Naruto. Fine, you're right I guess. She told herself not to get too disappointed. There would be other opportunities to get close to Sasuke, especially if they were on the same team. As everyone got settled, a jonin with shoulder-length brown hair sporting the usual leaf flak jacket walked in. He wore a bandana tied in the front with leaf symbol on the back and a samban in his mouth. He made his way to the front of the class and cleared his throat to get everyone's attention. All right everyone, look sharp, he started. My name is Genma, and I'll be announcing the new teams. Here in my hands I have the list of teams assigned by Lord Hokage himself. Each team is assigned with individual abilities in mind. You will be placed based on which abilities complement each other. With that being said, let's begin. As Genma began reading off the names, Naruto allowed himself to zone out until he heard his name called. He wondered who the old man had paired him up with. That jonin had said that they would be paired based on whose abilities complemented each other, so it would have to work out, right? Yeah, whoever he was paired up with would surely be a good team for him. Team 7, Genma continued, Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto's head shot up off of his desk. Alright, here it was, his new team, Sakura Haruno. Naruto dared to sneak a glance over at her. She did not seem happy about the arrangement. Her brows were furrowed and she wore a pout on her face. He couldn't help but feel a twinge of disappointment at her reaction. He couldn't help it, he had harbored a crush on her for a long time. It doesn't just go away overnight. Maybe it wasn't as strong as it used to be, but he was still a 12-year-old boy, and she was a pretty girl. Oh well. Maybe she would change her mind. And Sasuke Uchiha. Yes. Sakura instantly shot up out of her chair, fists raised in the air. Naruto, of course, felt a bit of annoyance at this, but kept it to himself. We're ninja now, crushes don't matter, he reminded himself. While he wasn't thrilled to death at the prospect of having Sasuke on his team, he knew that Sasuke was at least serious about being a ninja like he was, so maybe it would work out. Supposedly their skills were supposed to complement each other, so he would try to keep a positive outlook. Team 8, Hinata Hyuga, Shino Abirame, and Kiba Inuzuka. So Hinata is with Kiba and Shino. That's okay I guess. I hope she's happy with them. He turned around to flash her a smile, but those plans changed whenever he had got a good look at her and her teammates. Hinata didn't seem too satisfied with her team, that much was clear to him from the look on her face, but what unsettled him more than that was the reaction of her teammate Kiba. There he was, a stupid cocky smirk on his face, with his arm draped over Hinata. Naruto didn't miss the slight blush that adorned her cheeks. She usually only did that around him. Naruto's insides started to feel hot, and he narrowed his eyes at the brunette boy with his arm wrapped around Hinata's shoulders. He had no idea why it bothered him so much. Why was he feeling this way? Hinata was free to hang out with whoever she wanted to. And as long as Kiba wasn't bothering her, it shouldn't be a big deal, right? Then why did it make him so angry? Was he feeling jealous? No way, that couldn't be it, could it? No, he figured, Hinata's my friend, I just don't want her getting hurt by some guy, that's all. Yeah, so, as her friend it's my job to keep an eye on whoever might be interested in her. Yeah, Naruto didn't get a chance to think on it further, as his thoughts were interrupted by Genma once again. Team 10, Shikamaru Nara, Ino Yamanaka, and Choji Akimichi. Man, what a drag, the boy with a high ponytail in the shape of pineapple stated, although I guess it's to be expected, we are the next Ino Shikacho trio after all, it makes sense. Yeah, I suppose. I was hoping to be on a team with Sasuke-kun though. That stupid billboard brow. I can't believe she's on his team. Ugh, shouted Ino angrily as she whipped her blonde ponytail and huffed before crossing her arms. Choji, as usual, was too busy eating potato chips to chime in on the conversation. Although he seemed content with his team as he wore a cheerful smile. Alright everyone, Genma announced to the entire class, you all will have time for the rest of the day to get to know your teammates and build team morale. It's important that you all build a sense of camaraderie. Then, you'll meet your Jonin senseis. You're all dismissed for lunch. Naruto knew that the Jonin was right, and he should probably spend his time with Sakura and Sasuke. But honestly, he didn't feel like watching Sakura drool over Sasuke for the next couple of hours. Besides, he couldn't seem to stop his legs from bringing him over to a certain pale-eyed girl with indigo hair. Hinata? Hey! He called out to her. She had just been about to exit the classroom with her teammates when she heard his voice. She froze in her tracks and turned to face him, the usual blush on her cheeks. Naruto couldn't help the smile that found its way to his face. He was really starting to like that blush. Hello and Naruto-kun. Aren't you going to have lunch with Sakura-chan and Sasuke-kun? She started to trail off as she spoke. She was still a bit down because she wasn't going to be on the same team as Naruto, but she was trying to stay positive. Kiba and Shino were nice, and she would try to be a good teammate to them. Well, I probably should, but I wanted to talk to you. See what you thought about your team, you know? He explained. Naruto-kun, he's really interested in what's going on with me, he's so nice. Hinata averted her gaze to the floor and began to nervously bump her fingers together, a habit that she had picked up a while back. Her blush spread down her neck and up to the tips of her ears. Well, Kiba-kun and Shino-kun are nice, and we see could be a good tracking group with my Byakugan, Shino-kun's bugs, and Kiba-kun's nose. I guess that's why we were put together. What about you? She asked him. She expected him to be ecstatic at being on a team with Sakura. Well, being on a team with Sakura-chan is cool, I guess. I'm not too excited about being on a team with the team, but I guess we can make it work. It would have been great to be on a team with you, he confessed. For some reason, saying that last part out loud made his stomach feel funny and his cheeks feel warm. Hinata's eyes widened for a moment, surprised that Naruto had said that to her. Again, she looked down, suddenly interested in the floor. Oh, well, yes, that would have been great, and Naruto-kun. We'll just have to do our best with our teams, I suppose. She cursed how much she had just stuttered, but Naruto saying he wanted to be on her team had brought it back with a vengeance. Yeah, he began, rubbing the back of his head sheepishly. Maybe we'll get assigned some joint missions together, you know? He hoped they would. Hinata was his only friend. He didn't want to stop seeing her altogether. Hey! Hinata-chan! Come on! It's time for lunch! Shouted Kiba from the hallway. TCH, jerk. Naruto mumbled under his breath. He was having a nice moment. Why did that dog boy have to ruin it? What did you say, Naruto-kun? Oh, nothing at all. He responded, waving his hands back and forth. Hinata giggled, and Naruto once again felt that wonderful warmth, but this time he felt in not only chest, but stomach too. And this time, his head felt a little funny. He wasn't sure why she made him feel so strange, but he found he actually liked the feeling. Okay, and Naruto-kun. Kiba-kun and Shino-kun are waiting for me. So I should get going. I'll see you later, Naruto-kun. And with that, she turned towards the door and made her way out to the hallway to meet her teammates. Yeah, later, Naruto said to no one in particular. Naruto took a look around and realized he was the only one left in the room. Maybe he should go to meet with his teammates? But he didn't want to. He would rather hang out with Hinata. She was such an amazing friend to him. Naruto took another glance around and took in the silence. Alone, same old, same old. A couple of hours later, Naruto sat on the roof with his teammates and his new Jonin sensei, Kakashi Hatake. He was already pretty irritated. Kakashi had shown up 2 hours late, leaving him to endure Sakura gushing over Sasuke and doing her best to pretend he didn't exist, it seemed. After that display, he was getting impatient with her. Maybe it shouldn't have bothered him so much, but it did. The sleep deprivation wasn't helping. Kakashi was an odd-looking man. He had messy silver hair and the standard leaf headband and flak jacket. His headband was pulled down on the left side over his eye. He wore fingerless gloves along with his navy blue pants and sandals. Currently he was only halfway paying attention to them, it seemed. He was reading some book, which Naruto was certain was some stupid pervy story. Okay, he began, let's do some introductions. Who wants to go first? Why don't you go first, sensei? Sakura suggested. Okay, my name is Kakashi Hatake. My like and dislikes, I don't feel like telling you my dreams for the future, I have lots of dreams. He stated with a bored expression. Okay, thought Naruto. This guy was straight up weird. You next, he said, pointing at Naruto. Honestly, Naruto had no energy at the moment from lack of sleep, and dealing with his teammates after having to watch Hinata leave with her new sensei had put him in a sour mood. This all seemed like a waste of time to him. My name is Naruto, he started with an uncaring tone. I like ramen. I hate having to deal with dumb shit. My dream for the future is to be Hokage, but I'm sure everyone knows that by now. All three of them looked at him as if he had two heads. He didn't care. He knew he had been acting differently, but it didn't matter to him at the moment. Kakashi even seemed surprised, even though he had just met Naruto. Lord Third said Naruto was high-spirited and full of energy, always wearing a smile. The boy in front of me is nothing like that. I wonder what's going on with him. He seems cold. Kakashi wondered to himself. Alright, pink-haired girl, you next. Sakura immediately perked up. My name is Sakura Haruno. What I like is the person I like, my dreams for the future are Eep. Naruto rolled his eyes when he realized she was looking right at Sasuke. And what do you hate? Kakashi questioned her. Naruto. She responded without hesitation. Naruto looked at her with furrowed brows. TCH, whatever. Yikes, Kakashi thought to himself. Alright, last but not least, you. Kakashi pointed to Sasuke, who had his fingers laced in front of his face with his eyes closed. My name is Sasuke Uchiha. I hate a lot of things. I don't really like anything. What I have is not a dream, because I will make it a reality. I want to restore the Uchiha clan, and kill a certain someone. He declared with dark eyes. Naruto recognized that look. Sasuke was after revenge. Someone had hurt him beyond any sort of forgiveness. He and Sasuke had definitely both had to grow up too fast. Alright, Kakashi broke the silence while standing from his seat on the guardrail. We start training tomorrow. Meet me at the designated training ground at 5 a.m. We'll be doing a survival exercise. And don't eat breakfast, or you'll throw up. He told them. Before any questions could be asked, he had vanished in a swirl of leaves. So, this was his team. He wasn't sure about them yet, but he had to give them a chance. Hopefully Sakura would chill with the fangirl act, and Kakashi wasn't actually a sensei who didn't care. Once again, he would try even though it seemed tough. He would try to make it work. With that thought, he leapt over the guardrail and sprinted towards Ichiraku for a ramen break. He couldn't be around those two any longer for today. Naruto's nightmares were not diminishing like he thought they would. Far from it. In fact, they were becoming worse, more vivid, more intense. They got worse every time he tried to sleep, and so far tonight he had attempted sleep at least 6 times. More people were coming into the nightmares. The common theme was always Iruka-sensei blaming him for his death, with the villagers glaring at him and calling him monster or demon sometimes. The Hokage would pop up and voice his disappointment in him for failing. He would awaken a cold sweat each time, either screaming or crying. The final time Naruto managed to fall asleep that night, he had the worst nightmare he could imagine. After he had endured Iruka-sensei's blame of him once again, something different happened afterwards. He instantly came face to face with a pair of mesmerizing pale lavender eyes. They reminded him of the moon, more beautiful than any eyes he had ever seen. But something was wrong. They seemed off, like they contained a mixture of anger and fear. Once Naruto took in the entire picture before him, he realized who the owner of the eyes were. Hinata. She looked at him with disgust, contempt, like she couldn't stand the sight of him. The same way everyone looked at him. But he had never seen that look on her before. It didn't look right on her. Her angelic face should never have an expression like that. Naruto, you have the beast that destroyed our village inside of you. You disgust me. How could I ever want to be around you after learning that? I hate you. Those words, no, it was his biggest fear. This couldn't be happening. Hinata! Please, I'm still me. Naruto Uzumaki. We're friends. He pleaded with her to see reason. She furrowed her brows in response, her cold glare unsettling on her usually soft eyes. Humph. Like I could ever be friends with a monster. He felt his world shatter when those words left her mouth. No. Please no, Hinata. He shot up from the bed, coated in sweat, heart racing, lungs aching for air, body trembling, and fresh tears sliding down his pale face. He was shaken. Hinata, his only friend in the world, turning on him? Calling him a monster? It was too much to handle. Even though it was a dream, even though he knew it wasn't real, he could feel his heart breaking. He couldn't stop crying, shaking, clutching at his chest, trying desperately to get the agonizing pain to stop. He couldn't take this anymore. He needed help. Naruto was usually too proud to ask for help from others, but he was at his limit. He didn't think he could endure another nightmare like that one. It would destroy him. He knew it was a dream, but damn if it didn't feel real to him. It only further convinced him he could never tell her the truth. He couldn't lose her. Naruto had finally forced himself to stop crying, and managed to calm his breathing down enough to stop shaking. He stared at his hands that were clutching the sheets. Yes, he needed help, but who would help him? Normally he might go to Hinata, but he definitely couldn't go to her about this. Especially since it's so late. It was almost midnight. There was only one person he could go to about this, and that was the old man. He threw off his sheets and changed out of his pajamas. He quickly threw on a black t-shirt and orange shorts, and put on the sandals. He hoped that the old man was still in his office, otherwise Naruto would have to wait until tomorrow, and he didn't think he could. He was confident the Hokage would be able to find a way to help him out. After all, he had said he wanted to help him and Naruto knew that he was telling the truth. He leapt from rooftop to rooftop, rushing to the Hokage tower at top speed, hoping to get there before the old man decided to leave for the night. Usually he was still there late doing paperwork, so tonight shouldn't be any different. He was in luck. As he spotted the tower up ahead, he noticed the light in his office was still on, and he could vaguely make out the silhouettes of two people. So someone was meeting with him this late? Great, now I have to wait until he's done. Well, I'll just sit outside of the window and listen for when they finish up. Naruto reached the side of the Hokage tower, and stealthily made his way over next to the window. He leaned in, careful not to be caught eavesdropping. Out of the corner of his eye he was able to see the figure the Hokage was talking to. He seemed rather elderly, with his right eye and arm covered in bandages. He had an X-shaped scar on his chin, and he held a cane to help him stand. For some reason he couldn't explain, Naruto was getting a weird vibe from him. He gave him the creeps. He crouched down out of sight, suddenly interested in what the creepy man wanted. He listened closely, and he was just able to hear their somewhat heated discussion. Danzo, that's enough. This is not the way I want things done in this village. Whoa, Gramps Hokage sounds kind of angry about something. Hiruzen, stop letting your feelings get in the way. We have to use this power to our advantage while we still have the chance. If we are able to control it, bend it to our will, then the other great nations won't even consider going against us. The other man, apparently Danzo, declared. Naruto was even more curious now. A power? This sounded like a really serious discussion. He was certain he shouldn't be listening, but he couldn't stop himself. Danzo, I don't want to achieve peace by having other nations fear us. Besides, Naruto is only a child. I will not allow you to treat him as a weapon to use at your disposal. Naruto's eyes widened. What? They were talking about him. This was what the old man had warned him about. So this Danzo guy was one of the elders that wanted to try to control him, control the power of the Nine Tails. Naruto could feel hot anger bubbling up inside of him. Why couldn't they just leave him be? Hiruzen, you're letting your affection for the boy cloud your judgment. Naruto Uzumaki is a Jinchuriki. He's not a normal boy, no matter how much you want him to be. The Nine Tails is the most powerful tailed beast there is. If you let me take him under my wing and teach him to control that power for our purposes, we would be the most powerful ninja village in existence. Instead you're going to let him leave the village on missions with Kakashi Hatake. He should be kept here where we can keep an eye on him. Enough. That's the end of this discussion, Danzo. I will not disgrace the fourth Hokage's legacy by doing that to Naruto. No exceptions. I will protect Naruto from those who would use him, like you. Hiruzen stated firmly. His tone left no room for argument. Yeah. You tell him, Gramps. Naruto mentally cheered. Danzo looked furious, but then took a deep breath and allowed himself to cool off. If Naruto didn't know any better, he could have sworn that the expression he now wore was a smug grin. Naruto hadn't even officially met Danzo yet he truly despised him. Fine. I'll drop it for now. But your time as Hokage is coming to an end, Hiruzen. You know it as well as I do. Someone else will take the reins soon, and then you will no longer be able to protect him from his destiny. The other elders are on my side, and I do not give up so easily, Danzo stated before turning and hobbling out of the Hokage's office. Naruto stood frozen outside of the window. Danzo's words keeping him glued to his spot. He's right. Gramps is old, he'll probably retire soon, or no. Damn it. What do I do? I'm not strong enough to go against the elders of the village yet. I haven't even been on my first mission. I don't want this. Naruto felt himself spinning out of control again. He had completely forgotten all about talking to the Hokage now. He couldn't get what Danzo said out of his mind. He started to panic, sucking in air too fast, his heart slamming against his chest. He had to get out of there. Without another thought, Naruto went as fast as he could make his body go until he was back at his apartment. He ran inside and slammed the door loudly. He made his way into his bedroom and fell to the floor, his legs unable to support him any longer, burning from his race back home. He pulled his knees to his chest and put his head in his hands, tugging at the blonde strands, trying to make sense of everything. What was he going to do now? Ugh, damn it! That bastard! He yelled out to no one. He was so angry, so furious, so scared. He would never admit it out loud, but it was true. He was scared out of his mind. He honestly didn't think he wanted to learn to control the Ninetales' power. He didn't even know if he could. What would happen if he couldn't? Would the Ninetales take over him? Would he become dangerous? What if he hurt someone? What if he hurt her? No way could he allow that to happen. I don't get it. Why? Why can't that old geezer just leave me alone? I don't want this, I never asked for it. And yet people want to control my life because of it. That won't change, brat. No matter how long you live. Huh, who's there? Show yourself. Ha! Fine brat, you asked for it. In an instant, Naruto's vision began to blur, and then went black completely. He had no idea what was happening. Who was that voice? Why couldn't he see anything? What in the hell was going on? Slowly Naruto's vision started to adjust to the darkness surrounding him. What he was able to make out looked like pipes inside of a giant sewer. He turned his gaze to the floor, and realized he was ankle-deep in water. Strange, he didn't actually feel like he was getting wet. His head snapped to the left when he heard a low rumbling noise. It almost sounded like a growl. It was unnerving, scary, yet Naruto felt drawn to it. It seemed familiar somehow. His legs began moving on their own towards the sound. He was certain he had never been here before, yet he felt like he knew exactly where he was going. It was the oddest sensation. The tunnel he was trudging through opened up into a giant room so massive he couldn't see the ceiling. The only thing giving away the end of it was what looked like a ginormous jail cell. Monstrous metal bars stretched across the room, a lock in the middle with the kanji for Seo written on it. The rumbling noise was loudest in here. Naruto walked up to the cage, goosebumps prickling his skin, his heart slamming against his ribcage. This was it. Suddenly the cage was enveloped in a burning red chakra, and the rumbling noise grew even more menacing. Naruto raised his stare to the top of the cage, and met a pair of crimson eyes with black slits and razor-sharp teeth. The sight was utterly terrifying, but Naruto somehow felt safe. Maybe it was the seal. Wait. The seal. You're. So the brat finally decides to come for a visit, eh? The creature growled at him. You're the Ninetales. On to Chapter 3, Sweeping Declaration. I don't know Naruto. I wish I did though, because then I wouldn't be pulling my hair out over how to pay the power bill this month. Gah. Anyway, Naruto and all of its characters are owned by M. Kishimoto. Naruto stood in awe of the beast before him. He must have been at least 30 feet tall, covered in a bright orange fur that was standing on end. He had long fox ears pointing upwards and 9 bushy tails swaying back and forth. He stood on his hind legs, which looked highly humanoid-shaped. He glared down at Naruto with blood-red eyes with black slits and the sharpest teeth he had ever seen in his life. Surrounding his entire body was a crimson aura that made Naruto shiver involuntarily. He knew he should probably be afraid, should be petrified, but he wasn't. So brat. You told me to show myself. So here I am. His voice sounded incredibly menacing, not to mention booming, nearly shaking the room in which they resided. Stop calling me a brat. Where are we anyway? What is this place? He took another look around. Was this inside of him somewhere? Humph, don't you know your own mind, kid? This is your inner mind. This is where I have been sealed away by that repugnant fourth Hokage. Ninetales grumbled. Naruto turned somber and gazed down at the floor. Yeah, hey, Ninetales? Tell me, what did you mean earlier when you said that things won't change for me? He wondered. He was pretty sure he already knew the answer. Well, I normally don't pry into my Jinchuriki's personal life, but this kind of involves me too. People like Danzo will always try to control my power. They'll track you down, try to kidnap you or influence you by any means. It's the same with every shinobi who has tried to keep us as pets. He practically spat that last part. Why are they so intent on controlling your power? Aren't they afraid of you? Naruto thought if they weren't, they should be. They should be, Ninetales began, echoing Naruto's thoughts. But humans tend to have short memory spans and most don't learn from their mistakes. They only care about getting power. It's sickening. As if anyone could possibly control my power. What do you mean? Ninetales lowered his face to meet the boys beyond the thick metal bars. I mean the only way to control my power is if I allow it. And that is never happening. Not for you or any other human. If you attempt it, I'll simply end up controlling you instead, and take over your body until I'm free of this wretched place. Naruto grimaced. I see, that's exactly what I had feared. So it's impossible after all. What he didn't know was that it wasn't actually impossible. But the fox wasn't going to give him hope by telling him that. Yes, it is. Try to use my full power and you, your Hokage, and your pathetic village will regret it once I break free. He declared. Yeah, I got it. You're not a nice guy. Look, how do I leave this place? This is your mind, as I've already told you. You control it. Just wake yourself up. Like you were having a dream or something. That made sense. Naruto closed his eyes and concentrated. He wasn't sure what he was doing exactly, but he figured this would be the best way to get back. He focused his mind on the outside reality, his bedroom, his floor, his body, his feelings. Slowly but surely, his surroundings turned hazy and started to go black completely. Naruto opened his eyes and found that he was back in his room sitting on the floor, just like he had been. He couldn't believe he had met the nine-tailed fox inside of him. He wondered if he could speak with him on a regular basis if he wanted to. Of course, brat, I'm in your mind after all. Okay, well that answered that question. Although Naruto didn't care for Ninetales, he did understand not wanting to be used. That was a big dilemma he was currently facing. Not only that, if he was forced into attempting to control Ninetales, well, the beast himself had told him what would happen, and he did not want to test the theory. It took someone as strong as his father to seal him away last time. He wasn't sure if anyone could do it again. He wasn't sure what to do. He would be safe as long as the Hokage was in power, but what about afterward? He hated it, but Danzo had a good point. Would Danzo be able to get his hands on him after the old man was out of office? Would Naruto be able to stop him? And who would be Hokage after the old man? What if Danzo becomes the next Hokage? This was all too complex. He felt like such a coward for being afraid, but he couldn't help it. So many things had transpired in the last several days, he was doing his best to cope. But it was so damn hard. So hard to take in all of the information along with the fear and emotions that came with it. He couldn't think of anything except to leave the village. No way, I can't do that. This is the only home I've ever known. I can't leave for good. Even if I have some bad memories here, this is still Konoha and I am still a leaf shinobi. I have to think of something else. A sparkle caught his attention out of the corner of his eye, and he glanced over to his nightstand. Sitting there practically staring at him was his Konoha headband. It held the leaf symbol. A symbol of his hard work. A symbol of him becoming a ninja, and a symbol that he was one step closer to becoming Hokage. He couldn't just give up. He climbed into bed and pulled the covers over him. He closed his eyes and hoped with everything he had that his body and mind would allow him sleep. He drifted off time after time that night, only to be repeatedly awoken by pale lavender eyes filled with fear and hatred glaring back him. Tomorrow was going to be a long day. At around 3 a.m. that morning, Naruto had given up the prospect of sleep. He figured maybe he had gotten a grand total of an hour. Maybe. He sluggishly made his way into the shower and let the scalding water beat down on him, praying it would somehow wake him up. Of all days to be this fatigued, today was his first day of training with his team. After he had dried himself off, he threw on his usual orange jumpsuit, and for the first time since the day he had gotten it, he grabbed his new headband and tied it around his head, signifying his rank as a genin of the village. He swiveled around to meet his own reflection staring back at him in the mirror. Man, I look like death. It wasn't too much of an exaggeration. Naruto was ghostly pale. A light sheen of cold sweat clung to his brow. His skin was clammy. The dark circles under his eyes were incredibly prominent, and his eyes seemed dull. He looked ill. The stress of recent days coupled with the lack of sleep was taking a tortuous toll on his body. He decided not to think on it anymore. Thinking about how bad he felt would only make him feel worse. He looked at the clock, which now read 4:45 a.m. It was time to leave. He finished packing his bag with ninja tools and opened the front door. It was time to train. He made his way through town, thankful no one had seen him in his current state yet. As he caught sight of the training grounds, he noticed that both Sasuke and Sakura were already there, but his sensei was nowhere to be found. Of course, he was late again. As he closed in on his two teammates, he realized he had already been spotted. Not only that, but they were staring at him as if he were an alien or something. What? You look terrible. Sasuke stated the obvious. Sakura jumped up from her spot on the ground. Yeah, Naruto. You look like you haven't slept in days. What's wrong? Wow. Even Sakura was worried about him for once. He must really look awful. It's nothing, he said, trying to play it cool. I just couldn't really sleep last night. I was just nervous about today, that's all. No way was he telling them the truth. Well, quit doing that. Sakura shouted, you're a ninja now. If you keep losing sleep, you're going to get yourself killed. I know. I'm sorry, Sakura-chan. He turned his gaze on Sasuke, who looked back at him with a brow raised. He didn't seem convinced, but didn't press him further on the issue. Naruto figured it would still be a while before Kakashi showed up, so he trudged over in front of tree and plopped down onto the grass. Before he knew it, his eyelids had closed on him and his body drug him into a deep sleep. Hey Baka! Wake up! Cha! Naruto's head instantly began pounding. What the hell? Reluctantly, Naruto forced his eyelids to part open and immediately squinted in pain as the bright rays of the sun blasted into his vision. He couldn't see anything but blurry figures for a moment, but then his surroundings started coming into focus. There, looking down at him with a red face and a shaking fist, was Sakura. Yikes, Sakura-chan looks really mad at me. Sakura-chan, what the? He trailed off. You fell asleep, Naruto. And Kakashi-sensei is here. Come on. We have to start training now. She told him impatiently. I fell asleep? I didn't have a nightmare. I don't even remember dozing off. Man, I must have really been exhausted. He deduced. All right. I'm coming, he announced. Naruto and Sakura walked over to where their sensei was standing with a hand on his hip and his usual reading material in the other hand. Sasuke was already there waiting for them. Kakashi glanced up from his book and became rooted to the spot when he got a good look at his blonde-haired student. He looked like every single ounce of his energy had been sucked out of him. He looked a lot like a zombie in Kakashi's opinion. Sorry Kakashi-sensei, Naruto announced as he stumbled over to join them. I just dozed off, you know? What time is it anyway? 7 o'clock, came Sasuke's reply. 7 o'clock? Where were you, sensei? You were late again. Naruto fussed. Sorry about that. I guess I just got lost on the path of life. You liar! Shouted both Naruto and Sakura at the same time. Alright. Naruto, can I speak with you alone for a moment? Kakashi asked him. Naruto was caught off guard at the request. Sure Kakashi-sensei, I guess so. And with that Naruto followed Kakashi-sensei over the edge of forest, leaving a confused Sasuke and Sakura behind. Something was really bothering Sakura. She couldn't get over the way Naruto was behaving. A part of him still seemed like the same Naruto, but another part of him seemed like a completely different person. It was so strange. Sakura, have you noticed something off about Naruto? Sasuke questioned her. Yeah, Sasuke-kun, I never thought I'd say this, but I'm worried about him. He's been acting differently, and he hasn't been getting any sleep. He looks like he's dead almost. Sakura had never been one to think about Naruto too much, but ever since his out-of-character behavior yesterday, she had been curious. Obviously something was troubling him. Do you think it has something to do with Iruka-sensei's passing? What do you mean, Sasuke-kun? She looked at him with a curious expression. She also momentarily tried to remember Sasuke ever saying this many words to her. I mean, Iruka-sensei took an interest in Naruto. And now he's gone. Sasuke explained. I had never noticed. I bet Naruto looked up to him. Although you'd never know it by his attitude. But that's Naruto, I guess. Maybe he's hurting, she said, seeming a bit troubled by the thought. Sasuke didn't look so sure. No, I think it's more than that. Yes, he's probably hurting over Iruka-sensei, but I can't help but feel like there's something else. Something else must have happened that night. He reasoned. Sakura turned her side over to the edge of the forest where Kakashi and Naruto had gone to, concern etched onto her face. What do you think it is? I'm not sure, he said, but I'm going to find out. Sakura looked down at her feet and crossed her arms. It sure seems like Naruto is dealing with a lot. And he doesn't have any family to help him through it. Maybe I should be nicer to him. He could probably use a friend. Naruto and Kakashi walked along until they were out of sight. Kakashi wanted to make sure that no one was around to see or hear their conversation. Naruto, having had enough of the weird silence, decided to speak up. Kakashi-sensei, what's this about anyway? Kakashi let out a long sigh. Naruto, what's going on with you? Naruto began nervously rubbing the back of his head. What do you mean, sensei? Kakashi crossed his arms and gave him a stern look. Cut the crap, Naruto. I may have not known you personally for long, but I've been given a very detailed report about you from the Hokage. I'm well aware of how you normally behave, and this isn't it. Neither was how you acted yesterday. Not to mention that you look like you're a dead man walking. It's clear you haven't been getting enough sleep. So spill it. What's going on? Naruto wasn't sure what to say. Should he tell him? He wanted to, yet he didn't want to. Obviously Kakashi must know about his status as a Jinchuriki, but that didn't mean he wanted to talk to him about it. Maybe he could just tell him part of the truth to get him off of his back. Yeah, that could work. He looked up hesitantly to his sensei. Kakashi-sensei, do you know what happened the night Iruka-sensei died? He felt a pain in his chest as the words came out. Iruka's death would always hurt him. Yes, I do. Naruto averted his gaze, unable to look Kakashi in the eyes with his next words. Well, I guess you know that night Mizuki team told me that I have the nine tails inside of me. And then later Gramps Hokage told me who my parents were, and what happened 12 years ago. It's just been a lot to take in. It's hard for me to sleep because I can't stop thinking about it. He explained. Kakashi already knew about this, having been briefed by the Hokage. I see. Look, Naruto, I'll be okay, Kakashi-sensei, really. You don't have to worry about me. I'm fine, you know? Kakashi knew Naruto was trying to play it cool, but he wasn't buying it. Naruto, just answer one more question for me. Naruto nodded and Kakashi continued. Has the Nine Tails spoken to you at all? Kakashi was hoping the answer was no. From the limited knowledge he had of seals, he was sure that would mean the seal was getting weaker. Naruto's heart leapt into his throat. He did his absolute best to not seem freaked out by the question Kakashi had just asked him. No, Kakashi-sensei. Should I be expecting him to? He asked innocently. Kakashi sighed again. I don't know, Naruto. I'm not sure how it works. But you said he hasn't, so don't worry about it. Do you think you can go through with the training today? We can put it off until tomorrow. I normally wouldn't, but your situation is a bit unusual. Boy, I can't hear that enough. Naruto thought to himself sarcastically. I'm fine, sensei. Don't worry. After all, I got in a power nap before you got here, you know. He joked. Kakashi smiled. Alright, let's get to it then. Naruto and Kakashi made their way back over to Sasuke and Sakura, who seemed to have been having a conversation of their own. Naruto was still feeling a bit zombie-like, but that little snooze he had gotten in before his sensei's arrival had helped a little. Naruto went to stand beside Sakura, and all three turned their attention back to Kakashi. Alright everyone, no more delays. Today, we start our survival training. Now, there's a big punishment for failure of today's test. He explained. The three gazed up at him in confusion. Test? Sakura was the first to chime in. What do you mean, Kakashi-sensei? He, strangely enough, began laughing. I mean this is a test. To see if you three really get to become ninja. That academy test was just to see who could get to this point. But if you should fail the survival test today, you're going back to the academy. He declared. Both Naruto and Sakura's mouths dropped open and their eyes nearly popped out of their heads. Sasuke on the other hand looked absolutely furious. Naruto's heart rate picked up while beads of sweat made their way down his forehead. He exhaled, then nodded. There was no getting out of it. Whatever Kakashi had planned, he would just have to do his best. He looked back at Kakashi with a newfound resolve. Okay sensei, bring it on. We'll pass for sure, you know? He beamed. Sasuke and Sakura both nodded in agreement. They were ready. Alright then, Kakashi said as he pulled 2 silver bells from his pocket. See these bells? The genin nodded. Your job is to take them from me before lunch today. Use any means necessary. Those who don't get a bell, don't eat lunch. Also, there are only 2 bells. So, only 2 of you will pass. Someone on this team will be left behind. All 3 members of Team 7 looked shaken. No matter what they did, one of them would be left out. Naruto was determined that it wouldn't be him. Also, Kakashi continued, if you aren't prepared to kill me, you won't be able to get the bells. The 3 genin gulped simultaneously, each having their own reasons for being incredibly frightened by the concept of being left behind. Naruto steeled his nerves, focusing on coming up with a plan for getting the bells. Now begin. The time was now 12 o'clock, and none of them had even gotten close to getting a bell. Naruto had made the admittedly dumb decision to challenge Kakashi when he ran out of ideas. He ended up paying for it by finding himself on the receiving end of Kakashi's 1,000 years of death jutsu. Not fun. It was time for lunch, and the sensei of Team 7 did not look pleased. Now, I've made a decision. He announced as the 3 genin looked up at him from their seats on the ground. There's no need for any of you to go back to the academy. Naruto smiled so hard it felt like his whisker marks might be touching his ears. This was great news, because all of you are being dropped from the program. Naruto paled. But why? Naruto asked. What had they done that was so wrong? Yes sensei, why are you so upset with us? Sakura chimed in. Sasuke simply looked on with a dark expression. He was not pleased. Kakashi narrowed his lone visible eye. Do you have any idea what this exercise was about? It's so obvious. Think about it, they put you in teams of 3. Why do you think we do that? Naruto had no clue. He hadn't given it much thought. Teamwork. Kakashi shouted at them. You are put into teams of 3 to work together, to use your talents and abilities as a cohesive unit. You were placed together because your abilities complement each other. Surely Genma told you that. Naruto thought back on it. Yep, he had mentioned that. He was such an idiot. And now he wouldn't be a shinobi. Sakura spoke up again. But sensei, you only had 2 bells. How were 3 of us supposed to work together if only 2 of us could get the bells? Kakashi let out a frustrated sigh. That was a test to see if you would be selfish or put the team as a whole first. You all failed miserably. Naruto, you're too rash and unpredictable. That hurts the team. Sakura, you allowed Naruto stay in harm's way after he was attacked because you were only concerned about Sasuke. And Sasuke, you think you're so much better than the other 2, you think you don't need them, but you're wrong. If you're so much better, then why are you in the same boat as them? If you and Naruto had come at me together, you may have succeeded. None of you gets what it means to be a shinobi. Naruto felt sick. He was right. He thought he knew what he was doing, but he didn't have the slightest clue. It wasn't about him. He should always put his teammates first, and his own needs last. He couldn't believe he hadn't realized that. Kakashi closed his eyes and visibly relaxed. Look, I'll give you guys another chance after lunch. You'll have an extra 2 hours after you eat to get the bells. If you fail, back to the academy. Now, Naruto, since you did the worst in our little training exercise today, and you attempted to eat early, you go without lunch, and you'll be tied to that post. He explained while pointing to the middle wooden post behind them. Naruto hung his head when he remembered his sorry attempt at trying to sneak away with one of the bentos before lunchtime. Ah man, Naruto sighed in defeat. Kakashi began tying Naruto to the post with some thick rope, and if either of you 2 try to give him any food, you fail. Got it? The 2 other genin nodded their heads and Kakashi made his exit once Naruto was secured to the post. Naruto's stomach kept growling. It was so loud he knew the other 2 must have heard it. Lack of sleep and lack of food, he felt terrible. He only hoped that after this was over he'd have enough energy to make it to Ichiraku. He was so hungry he could have sworn he felt his spine touching his stomach. Here. Naruto was brought out of his thoughts by the voice of Sasuke. He looked down at him and saw Sasuke holding out his food to him. Why? He was shocked that Sasuke was doing something so nice for him like that. Sakura began to panic. Sasuke-kun, no! Kakashi-sensei said. Kakashi's gone. We need to get those bells. If Naruto is weak from hunger, he'll slow the team down. We need to get some food in him. Sasuke explained. Sakura looked down at her bento. She sighed before turning to Naruto, chopsticks in hand. Here, Naruto, she said as she held out some rice for him to eat. Naruto was thrilled. He knew it was risky, but he was weak with hunger. Sakura-chan, thanks guys, he said with a weak smile. Taking turns, Sakura and Sasuke began sharing their food with Naruto. He was just about to have a second bite of rice when, all of a sudden, a puff of smoke appeared in front of them. Out of nowhere their sensei jumped out of the smoke, a crazed expression on his masked face. You! He screamed at them. All three genin looked up at him with open mouths and fear coating their faces. This was not good. Then, surprisingly, Kakashi smiled. You pass. After training, Naruto was still starving and tired, but he was in a fantastic mood. They had passed the test. Sasuke and Sakura put the team's needs before their own, and therefore passed the test of teamwork. Kakashi-sensei explained that in the shinobi world, those who break the rules are scum. But those who would abandon even one of their comrades is even worse than that. This was a valuable lesson for Naruto. He vowed to himself from now on he would put the interests of his comrades before his own. He would always keep them safe. After all, that's a Hokage's duty, right? Since Naruto was still hungry, he decided he needed a bowl of ramen from Ichiraku to celebrate. He hoped he'd run into Hinata along the way to ask her to join him, but he knew she was probably with her team. He hoped that they could still hang out. He already missed her. As Naruto began to run into town, he suddenly felt funny. He started to feel lightheaded, as if his head had helium in it. He stopped when his vision began to blur. Something was wrong. This wasn't the same as the panic attack the other day with the Hokage, but he still felt like he was going to. Before he could finish the next thought, Naruto was lying on the outskirts of the village, unconscious. When Naruto opened his eyes, he was in the middle of a dead sprint. He was so confused. How did he get here? Hadn't he passed out? He remembered feeling woozy, and then what happened? He wasn't sure, but he felt like he was chasing after something. What was even more strange was that his body was moving on its own. He tried to control his muscles, will himself to stop running, but it was no use. For some reason, his body would not obey his commands. Next thing he knew, Naruto's vision became hazy, and he could have sworn he was floating. Wait, he was floating? But he was looking down on someone. This person really didn't look like a person. They had red chakra surrounding them, claws, and fangs poking out of their mouth. Those eyes, they were crimson with black slits. Were those tails? 9 of them to be precise. They looked strange being attached to a boy with blonde hair. Wait a minute. Blonde hair? It was him. He was watching his own body. But how was this possible? And what was happening to him? He instantly clutched his ears when he heard a piercing shriek of terror. It sounded like it came from a woman. He looked down to see that the other him had cornered someone in an alley. She was a young girl, around his age. Short indigo hair and pale skin. Hinata! He tried to scream her name, but no sound came out. This was madness. No! What's happening to me? I've taken over your body. That seal is too weak. I'm going to kill the girl, and then destroy this village. He heard in his head. No! Nine Tails, why? I didn't try to control your power. Why? All he heard in response was booming laughter as the other Naruto closed in on her. No, this can't happen. She had to get away. But he couldn't control his own actions. He watched helplessly as Hinata found herself trapped against the wall with nowhere to run. The other Naruto's hand raised up slowly, claws poised to strike. No! Please! He pleaded. He heard her cries of terror, and then his vision went black. Hinata! Naruto screamed as he shot up from the bed, eyes leaking tears once again. His breathing was labored, and his heart was beating at an alarming rate. It was a dream. It was all a dream. Thank goodness. He thought to himself. He placed his face in his hands and attempted to calm his breathing and heart rate. That was the worst nightmare ever. It seemed so real, he was still having to convince himself that it didn't happen. He never wanted to see that again as long as he lived. Naruto took one look around the pristine white room and immediately knew where he was. He had passed out, and someone brought him in. Once his breathing had returned to normal, he glanced down at his arms and took note of the fact that he was hooked up to N4. He felt completely drained, utterly exhausted. He turned his line of sight to the door when he heard it open, and in walked in a nurse with short black hair and a cheerful smile. He wasn't used to seeing that. Maybe the old man found out and made sure he had someone who would be nice to him. Or maybe she was faking, who could tell? Hello there, Uzumaki-san, how are you feeling? She questioned him. I feel so tired, like I don't have any energy. What happened to me? He wondered. She began writing something on his chart. Someone found you passed out on the outskirts of the village and brought you in. A young man named Sasuke, I believe. Anyway, we got you put in a room and hooked up to N4. You were dangerously dehydrated. And it seemed like you were sleep deprived as well. Not to mention you needed food. You should really take better care of yourself, Uzumaki-san. She told him. Naruto looked down at his hands. I see, thank you. He would have to thank Sasuke for doing that for him, although he was absolutely mortified that Sasuke had seen him like that. He didn't want to owe him one, but it appeared that now he did. Well, everything seems to be okay now, she began again. Your color is looking better. We'll keep you overnight just to be safe, but you should be fine. Let me know if you need anything. Someone will be in to bring you something to eat shortly. She explained to him. Food. He was still so hungry. Thank you, I appreciate it, you know? He smiled weakly at her. To his surprise, she smiled back at him, and waved before exiting, leaving him alone with his thoughts. He wondered how long he could keep this up. He was supposed to be a ninja, and thanks to his current state, he had been rendered unconscious from one day of training. That wouldn't do. He didn't want to, but Naruto had put it off long enough. Once he got out of here, he would tell the Hokage about his nightmares. He would have to be able to sleep normally again if he wanted to function properly. That nightmare, what frightened him most about it was that he was sure that what had happened was actually possible. Ninetales had told him he would try to take him over if he ever tried to control his power. Just as he was about to lie back against the mattress, he heard the door swing open again. What he saw made his blood run cold. Anger pulsed through him painfully as the man made his way into the room. Danzo. He could hear the Ninetales snarling in his head, clearly thinking the same thing he was. What in the hell is this bastard doing here? As Danzo began to hobble over, Naruto glared at him, making it clear that he was not happy to see him. He'd rather hang out with the Ninetales than Danzo. Hello, Naruto Uzumaki. What do you want? Naruto practically spat at him. He wanted Danzo to know that his presence was not welcome. Danzo wasn't backing down from his hateful stare. I would like to speak to you about something important. Something beneficial to our village that you can help with. TCH, Naruto started. Let me guess, this has something to do with the Ninetales, is that right? Danzo seemed surprised for a moment, before regaining his cold, composed demeanor. You're smart. Yes. That is what I wish to talk to you about. I want to offer you a chance to train and control that power. I could take you under my wing and make you a powerful asset to this village. Naruto crossed his arms, never losing his defiant glare. Not gonna happen. You just want to use me and Ninetales for power. Besides, you want to keep me in the village being watched, right? Well, that can't happen. I'm a ninja, I can't stay cooped up in the village. Anyway, the power you're speaking of can't be controlled. It's impossible. Oh, is that right? He sounded skeptical. This only further angered Naruto. Yeah, it is right. Naruto practically growled at him. The fox told me himself, and after experiencing his chakra, I believe him. You're only wasting your time. I don't want to help you. Naruto turned his head to the window, not wanting to look at Danzo any longer. I don't believe that to be true, Danzo retorted. The tailed beasts have been controlled before, and the Ninetales can be as well. Besides, if you don't agree to help me, I think I can figure out ways to persuade you. That caught Naruto's attention. He whipped his head back to face him. What do you mean by that? Danzo looked at him smugly. I mean, I know all about you. I know there are only a select few in this village who you are close to. They mean a lot to you, correct? Especially a certain little girl from the Hyuga clan. Naruto's heart stopped. How dare he talk about Hinata? Danzo continued, there is more than one way to draw out the Ninetales' power. Rage is a method. Once it's drawn out, you'll have no choice but to attempt to control it. It's not a preferable method, but not one I'm above using. Naruto felt his heart rate pick up again. What are you saying? I'm saying that you only have a few people you trust in this world. It would be a shame if anything happened to them. Naruto felt hot anger well up inside of him. This monster was threatening his friends? How dare he? You would never get away with that. The Hokage would stop you. I'd stop you, he declared. Oh really? Danzo didn't seem bothered. I'm much stronger than I look, boy. I could defeat you with a pinky. And as for the Hokage, he's nothing more than a pushover. Besides, he's too busy to keep tabs on me. Don't underestimate how far I'm willing to go for the good of Konoha. You will be made to control that power. Whether you come willingly or not is up to you, but I suggest if you care about your friends then you had better not disappoint me. And you should know, you're not the only one who aspires to be Hokage. You have 3 days to decide. He didn't give Naruto a chance to respond as turned and hobbled back over to the door, closing it behind him as he left. Naruto was at a loss. He couldn't let this man get what he wanted, he just couldn't. But if he refused, he wanted to believe the Hokage could protect all of his friends. But what if he couldn't? Danzo seemed to have no issue defying the Hokage, so just how strong was he? Strong enough to believe he could become Hokage apparently. Naruto was afraid for everyone. That bastard had even called out Hinata by name. He couldn't allow her to be hurt. Leave. What? I can't do that. Ninetales scoffed at that. Why not? If you're gone, he'll have no reason to harm your friends. He's using your friends against you, making it your weakness. He hasn't considered that you might run off. If he doesn't know where you are, how to reach you, then using your friends against you is meaningless to him. He's just using that ploy to get what he wants. He wants to control me, and I don't want to deal with a human as revolting as he is. I'd rather help you out so I can get away. Naruto hated to admit it, but the fox had a point. Danzo couldn't really manipulate him if he was gone. Maybe it was best this way. But he wanted to be Hokage, to be a shinobi. Didn't you just decide earlier that you wanted to put your comrades' needs above your own? I think this qualifies. Humans like Danzo are a dime a dozen brat. Even if you get by him, there are more of them out there, waiting to get their hands on us. Your so-called comrades will never be safe with you hanging around them. He was right, he had decided to do that, to put everyone else first. And he wanted to keep everyone safe, no matter what. He thought back to his dream earlier, seeing himself about to strike Hinata. He never wanted that to become a reality. He would do whatever he had to do to keep it from happening. If Danzo made him try to control that power, then his nightmare may come true. You're right. I know you're only being selfish, but you're still right. This isn't about me. To keep them safe, to keep her safe, I will take all the pain on myself. I'll give up my dream if that's what it takes. If being me means being alone, then so be it. He didn't hear a reply from the fox, so he assumed he was content with that answer. Naruto let his head hit the pillow and decided that tonight, he would make his exit. It was the right time. It had to be done, even though his choice made him feel empty inside. As night fell over the village, Naruto began contemplating his next moves. He couldn't just up and leave. He needed to pack whatever belongings he could take with him. He was grateful that the Hokage had already given him his allowance for the month. He could use it to buy something if he needed it out on the road. Without making a sound, Naruto changed out of his hospital gown and back into his jumpsuit. He opened the window of his hospital room and surveyed the area, making sure no one saw him. Under the darkness, Naruto stealthily jumped along the walls and rooftops until he got back to his home. He quickly ran into his bedroom, pulling out his backpack and stuffing it with clothes, supplies, and some instant ramen for the road. He was sure there were some more things he might need, but he could buy them with the money he had been given. With everything he needed cramped into his backpack, Naruto took one last look around the room before he thought of something. He needed some insurance before he left. Insurance that nothing bad would happen while he was gone. He was pretty sure he was removing the danger by removing himself, but he wanted to be sure. Naruto walked over to his small nightstand and opened the drawer underneath it. He pulled out 2 crinkly pieces of paper, and went over to his dresser and grabbed an ink pen that was sitting on the top of it. He walked into the living room and sat down in front of the coffee table, trying to smooth out the wrinkles in the paper. Once he was satisfied, he began to write 2 messages, one to the old man, and one to her, Hinata. Once he had finished writing as fast as his hand would go, he looked over each message and made sure he said everything he wanted to say. He skimmed over the first letter and decided he was satisfied. He had warned the old man and asked him to keep everyone safe. The second letter, however, he took his time with. He wanted to make sure it was perfect. Hinata, I'm so sorry you have to find out this way, but I'm leaving the village. I can't tell you why. All you need to know is I'm doing this to protect everyone, especially you. I care about you a lot, and your safety means the world to me. I'm putting you in danger by staying, and I can't continue to do that. There's something you should know, Hinata. That day I ran into you on the 4th Hokage's head, I was totally defeated. I felt sad and a little hopeless, but you made my day bright again. The time we spent hanging out was amazing to me. You understand me so well, and you're always so nice and supportive. I feel like we have a real connection, and it's something I'll cherish forever. You gave me some hope again. That's why, even though it's hard for me to leave you behind, I'm going to take some comfort in keeping you safe by being gone. You deserve to be safe and happy, Hinata. I want that for you. You were the only person in our class who never had a mean thing to say about me. You always smiled at me and encouraged me. I didn't notice that until recently, but when I realized it I began to recognize how special you are. Never stop being you, Hinata. Don't let this world change you, like it's changed me. I'm sorry, I can't say that enough to you. I hope one day you can forgive me, my friend. But it's okay if you don't. You don't ever have to. Just stay safe, please. That's all I ask. Thank you for everything, Naruto. Honestly, there was a lot more he wanted to say to her, but he didn't have the time or the paper. He was facing the reality of just how special she had become to him in just a short amount of time, and it hurt him that he wouldn't see her anymore. When he thought of not witnessing that cute blush on her cheeks again, or not hearing her call him Naruto-kun, he felt hollow. But he pushed forward. It's what's best for her, he told himself. With that, Naruto made a sign and a shadow clone popped into existence. He would have the clone deliver the letter to the Hokage's office, and he would deliver Hinata's. This would save him some time. He wanted to leave quickly. Naruto was once again grateful that he had been a prankster. His stealth was out of this world when he got serious. No one had even spotted him since he left the hospital. He had placed both letters in envelopes, and raced off with his backpack in tow after giving one letter to his clone. Clone Naruto would sneak in, drop off the letter, and leave for the gate to meet up with the original. He knew it was late. He had intentionally waited this long in hopes that the Hokage would be home by now. He didn't want him to see the letter until morning. By that time real Naruto would have a huge head start, and he knew the old man would send someone after him. It was a little after midnight now, and clone Naruto was in luck. As he approached the tower, he took note of the complete darkness coming from the Hokage's office. No one was there, making his job easier. He hopped next to the window, and did a quick scan of the area to make sure no one would see him. Silently, he slid open the window and maneuvered himself inside. He could barely make out the large desk inside the room, but thankfully the moonlight was helping him see. He dropped the letter off on the desk, and turned to take his leave. With that taken care of, clone Naruto exited the tower, and headed off toward the village gates. All he had to do was meet up with the original where he would be dispelled, and Naruto would be on his way. Naruto always knew the Hyuga clan had a big home, but this was ridiculous. Naruto had decided to jump along the trees in the compound to try and see which window was Hinata's. So far he had no luck. Every room had belonged to someone else. He quickly sprung onto another branch on the highest tree, and then he saw it. It was her. There she was, lying in her bed asleep, completely oblivious to his presence. Naruto knew his time was limited. After all, these people saw everything. If he made too much noise and woke someone up, they would spot him immediately, and it would be over. He had to take extra care. He jumped onto the roof, making sure to be light on his feet. He was grateful that Hinata's window was already cracked open. He figured she must like a cool breeze while she sleeps. He squeezed through the open space and looked over her bedroom. It was large, and the entire room was covered in lavender. He smiled. That was exactly how he had imagined her room to be in his mind. Shaking his head to clear his thoughts, he took out the letter and gingerly placed it on her desk next to the window. He allowed his gaze to fall on her one last time. She looked so peaceful as she slept, not a care in the world. It made him happy that she could sleep like that. However, he also felt a pang of guilt. He knew she would be hurt by what he was about to do, but he hoped she would forgive him. It didn't make any sense, since he wasn't going to see her again, but he didn't want her to hate him. The thought still made his heart ache. Naruto sighed, and decided it was now or never, and now was best. He hopped up onto the windowsill, and carefully made his exit. He swiftly made his way out of the compound, and towards village gates. As he jumped along the rooftops, a single tear escaped his eye while he thought about leaving Hinata and everyone else behind. It truly hurt him. As Naruto neared the village gates, he was unaware of someone following him. Someone that had spotted him leaving the Hyuga compound. Someone with pale lavender eyes and short indigo hair. Naruto dropped to the ground, seeing that the area by the gates was abandoned. The gates were closed, just as they always were at night, but he could easily climb over them. Naruto thought someone should be guarding it overnight, but pushed the thought aside. He was just relieved that no one was here, or so he thought. Naruto-kun! Naruto stopped, frozen in his tracks. He paled. He knew that voice anywhere. Damn! She must have woken up right after I left. Reluctantly, Naruto turned to face Hinata. There she stood, still in her lavender pajamas, clutching the letter he wrote to her chest. Her lip was trembling. He could tell she was doing her best to not cry. This was exactly what he'd hoped to avoid. Please, she began, don't do this. Naruto looked up at her with a sorrowful expression. I have to. My time here has to come to an end. It's what's best for everyone, including you, Hinata. What's best for me is to be by your side. She shouted. Hinata, please. You're one of the few people that I feel truly connected to. I couldn't bear it if you were hurt because of me. How could you possibly hurt me, Naruto-kun? She questioned him. He immediately looked down and rubbed the back of his head nervously. No, he could never tell her. I can't tell you that. I'm sorry. But I'm a danger to you and everyone here. If I stay, it will only cause heartache for everyone involved. So, I'll take the pain on myself and leave this place for good. Everyone will be better off without me in the picture. Especially you. He felt like he was going to be sick. Hinata's eyes began leaking, and her whole body started to tremble. Naruto-kun, please. If you left, I would feel empty. You've been my inspiration for so long. You're my hero. I can't go on if you aren't here. Naruto-kun, please stay, I love you. I love you so much. Please stay here. Or take me with you. But don't leave me alone. She stuttered out, not from shyness, but from her crying. Naruto felt his heart skip a beat. Hinata loved him? His chest felt like it would explode, his stomach was flip-flopping. He felt tingly, his head getting fuzzy again. His entire body was enveloped in warmth. It was that feeling he always got around her, only twice as strong. He couldn't deny when those words left her lips, he felt incredibly happy. No one had ever said those words to him before. So this is what it's like to be loved, it feels so good. Did he love her back? He didn't know. He hadn't thought about it. Was that what those strange sensations were about when he was around her? Did that mean he loved her? He had no clue. But damn, this just got a lot harder. Because even if she loves him, even if he loves her back, he still has to leave her. And it's going to break his heart even more now. This had to be worst night of his life. Hinata, thank you. Truly. No one has ever said that to me before, and it means the world to me. You've given me something irreplaceable. His face went from a sad smile to crestfallen, but I still can't stay. I'm sorry. There are so many things you don't know. I'm not like you, or Sasuke, or Sakura-chan, Gramps, or anyone here. Even if I explained it, it wouldn't change the facts. I can't live a normal life. I can't give you happiness that you deserve. I can't have loved ones or a family. That was robbed from me long ago. But now, I can do at least one thing to keep you and everyone else safe. I can stay away to keep you from getting hurt. That's what I want more than anything. It's even more important to me than becoming Hokage. You need to forget about me, move on. I want you to have a happy life, Hinata. You can get married and have a family someday, but not with me. It's not something that's possible. By staying away, I can protect you. I could never bring you into my world, Hinata. You're too wonderful for that. I would only cause you pain, and I can't bear the thought of that. He was shaking, his fists clenched at his sides. This was the hardest thing he's ever had to do. I have to walk this path. It's made for me, and me alone. Hinata's tears were unbearable to watch. She was drowning in them. Every droplet was a blow to his aching heart. Please, Naruto-kun, even if I was safe, I would be so miserable without YUH here. I don't want safety. I want you. Please just stay here, please, she cried, putting her face in her hands to attempt to get some control over her sobbing. The letter she had was getting soaked from her tears. Naruto was working hard to force his eyes from spilling over with his own tears. Part of him was screaming at him to forget about running and just be with her, but he knew he couldn't. It wouldn't be fair to her. He'd just make her miserable, and then she might end up hurt or worse. If that ever happened, he would never be able to live with himself. The pain would be too great. From the corner of his eye, Naruto spotted his shadow clone lurking in a tree. Perfect timing. Naruto and his clone were on the same page. He nodded, giving the signal. Hinata, she gazed up at his whiskered face through the onslaught of tears. His blue eyes were swimming with emotion. I'm sorry for everything. Then, Hinata's world went dark. Hinata could vaguely feel herself breaking back into consciousness. Her mind felt panicked, frantic, like something was wrong. In her current fog she wasn't sure why she felt that way. Her eyes squinted open, noting that the sun wasn't up yet. For some reason she was cold. Where were her covers? Why did her bed feel so hard? Am I outside? Why would she be outside? It made no sense. She slowly sat up from the bench she had been sleeping on when she heard the unmistakable clang of something metal hit the pavement. When she looked down to see what it was, her entire world stopped. There, shining through the darkness of the early morning, was a shinobi headband with the leaf symbol. Pinned underneath the metal was what looked like a crinkled letter. The memories came flooding back to her. And just like that, she clutched her chest and began shaking like a leaf in the wind. She couldn't control the sobs that began to leak out of her body. Tears streamed down her face without resistance. She cried. She cried harder than she ever had in her life. She didn't care if anyone heard or woke up because of it. None of that mattered to her. Naruto had left the village. She poured her heart out to him, and he left her behind. The pain in her heart was so excruciating that she thought it would kill her. He left because he wanted to protect her. From what? What could be so bad that he needed to leave? She supposed that it didn't matter now. He was gone. She wrapped her arms around herself and began crying even harder than before. Sobs ripping from her without restraint. She was completely heartbroken. She had to tell someone. Maybe if she told someone they would go after him. Maybe the Hokage would get someone to bring him back. She had to try something. She was desperate to get him back. He had always been alone for his entire life, and now he would continue to be alone. She couldn't let that happen. She had to pull herself together. This was no time for crying. With her newfound plan, Hinata willed herself to stop her crying and shaking. Her breathing began to calm down, and reached down to grab the headband and letter from the ground. She was sure that if someone was tracking him, they would need them to gather his scent. She took off towards the Hokage's office, noting that while she had been crying the sun had started to rise. She didn't bother to stop at home and change into her actual clothes. She was on a mission. There was no time for delay. She just hoped that the Hokage was already in his office for the day. Hinata garnered a lot of attention from curious shop owners on her race to the Hokage Tower. She wasn't surprised. A girl in lavender pajamas clutching a note and a headband while sprinting through the village barefoot isn't exactly a normal occurrence. However, she knew that the embarrassment would be worth it if she could warn someone in time. They had to catch up with him. She sprinted up the stairs and burst through the doors of the building, again receiving many confused stares. She then turned to run in the direction of the Hokage's office, determined to tell him the news as quickly as possible. When she arrived, she didn't bother to knock. She practically blew the doors off their hinges when she came in. There, standing before her, were the Hokage and Kakashi Hatake. They looked at her with wide eyes, shocked at her appearance. She, on the other hand, was relieved that both of them were here. Lord Hokage. Kakashi-sensei. I need your help. Please. She pleaded while trying desperately to catch her breath. Her lungs were burning to get some air. The Hokage seemed to take her words seriously. He met her gaze. We already know, Hinata. It seems Naruto has left the village. He left a letter behind. I assume you must have seen him before he left? He gathered, eyeing the headband and letter nestled within her grasp. She realized what he was staring at, and held the headband out to him. Yes, I tried to stop him, she began, attempting to force back tears, but I failed. He knocked me out and left this headband with me. He also left me this letter behind. I thought you could use the headband to track him, she explained. Kakashi seemed to light up at that. That's perfect. I was going to use my ninja hounds. His scent will be the strongest on the headband than anything else. Great thinking, Hinata, Kakashi exclaimed. Hinata smiles weakly at the compliment, but she didn't have a sincere smile in her at the moment. She wouldn't until Naruto was back home. Hinata looked up to Kakashi, who wore a serious expression. Even though he wore a mask, his face conveyed emotion easily. We will find him. I'm going to track him with my hounds. I'm also going to meet up with Master Jiraiya of the Sannin. We'll find him together and bring him home. Don't you worry. Leave it to me, he said. He walked up to her and patted her on the head. Then, he took the headband from her hand and made his way to the door. Hiruzen stood up from behind his desk. Kakashi turned his head to meet his gaze. I'm putting my trust in you. Do your best. Kakashi let the words sink in, a look of determination painting his masked face. I will. And with that, Naruto's sensei took his leave. Hinata looked back to the Hokage, eyes brimming with tears. I'm sorry, sir. I tried to stop Naruto-kun from leaving, but IW was useless. All I did was cry and beg him to stay. I made no difference. I am so sorry, she said as a few tears escaped. Hiruzen held up his hand to silence her. That's enough, child. Naruto was determined to leave. You did the best you could. Judging by what he wrote me in this letter, he cares about you a great deal. Don't worry, we'll have him back soon, he assured her with a smile. Now, please go home and get cleaned up. You have training today. Sakura Harino will be joining you and Team 8 today for training since Kakashi will be gone. Now, head home, dear. She sighed. She didn't want to train now, but it couldn't be helped. She nodded and turned to exit. Today was going to be torture on her mind. She just hoped that Kakashi would find him. Lord Hiruzen was at a loss. Ever since he had walked into his office this morning and found a letter to him from Naruto, his mind had been working at 100 miles per hour. He immediately called in Kakashi to track Naruto. He also wanted him to meet up with Jiraiya, because he truly believed Jiraiya and Kakashi could convince Naruto to return. It was important that he actually wanted to come back, otherwise he would just run away again. He glanced down at the letter again, unease settling over him. Gramps, I'm sorry, really sorry. I'm leaving the village. I feel bad that you're finding out like this, but I know you're going to send someone after me, so I had to do it like this, you know? I have to leave in order to protect everyone. Before I go, I need to warn you about Danzo. I think you're already suspicious of him, but please keep an eye on him. He's bad news. He tried to get to me when I was in the hospital, but I knew what he was up to. He doesn't respect you, Gramps. Please watch your back. I would never admit this to anyone else in a million years, but I'm afraid of him. He terrifies me. Be careful, there's something else. Please, I'm begging you to watch over Team 7 and Hinata. Oh. Old man Tucci and I am too. I don't want anyone close to me getting hurt or being put in danger because of me. Especially Hinata, I worry about her the most. Please, old man, keep them safe. I wouldn't be able to live with myself if someone was harmed because of me. I want to thank you, Gramps. You're the only person who's watched over me all these years. I know you were really busy and didn't have as much time for me as you wanted, but still, you've been there for me. I was really mad at you when I learned the truth, Gramps, but I understand why you did what you did. You care about me, I can tell. It means a lot. I'll never forget what you've done for me, old man. Please watch yourself. Thank you for everything you've done, Naruto. Hiruzen read over the letter again. He must have read it 100 times already, but each time the remorse and guilt he felt was just as intense as the first time he had read it. He blamed himself entirely. If he had just made more time for Naruto, checked in on him more, maybe Naruto wouldn't have run. Maybe he would have told his troubles to Hiruzen, and they could have worked everything out. Naruto kept everything bottled up inside, and felt like he had no choice but to run. It was his fault, it had to be. He vowed to himself that when Naruto returned, he would do better. He would be there for him, ask him about his problems, and try to help him more. He felt like he had failed the fourth Hokage and Kushina, and he had to make it up to them. Something else that was bothering him was this new information about Danzo. He hoped Danzo was unaware of Naruto's departure. He knew that Danzo had many informants, so he wasn't sure what he did or didn't know. As far as he was concerned, the longer they could keep in the dark the better. Naruto's letter had made it abundantly clear that he could no longer trust his old teammate. He had already suspected that, but now he knew for sure. He hated it, but he would have to have someone tailing him from now on, waiting for him to slip up so Hiruzen could catch him. He couldn't allow Danzo to get his hands on the power he desired, otherwise Konoha and the other villages would be facing a serious danger. For Naruto to actually admit to being afraid was quite unsettling. He didn't take that lightly. He was certain Danzo's presence played a large role in Naruto's disappearance. He sighed. He only hoped that Kakashi and Jiraiya would find him soon. He didn't doubt Kakashi's tracking abilities, or Jiraiya's spy network. It was more that he respected Naruto's ability to be incredibly elusive. His reverence for his unique abilities skyrocketed in the last several days. First he had stolen the scroll of sealing without anyone noticing, Then he had left the village without being caught. Not only that, before he left he had snuck into the Hokage's office and the Hyuga compound without being detected, not a simple feat. Naruto had a large head start on them, and he was sure he had a plan to throw them off of his trail. Whatever that plan was, Kakashi would need to be ready for a countermeasure. He made a hand sign and instantly an ANBU Black Ops member was in front of him on one knee. He had black hair and wore a bear mask. "Yes, my lord?" He spoke. "Kakashi Hatake is currently being sent on an S-rank mission. He will not be able to oversee the training and missions of Team 7 for a while. I need you to make Sakura Haruno and Sasuke Uchiha aware of their new temporary arrangements. Haruno will be doing training with Team 8 and Kurina Yuhi, while Uchiha will be training with Team 10 and Asuma Sarutobi. Please go to both immediately and give them the news," he ordered. "Yes, Lord Hokage." And he disappeared in a swirl of leaves. The Hokage sighed again. He still couldn't believe he had allowed this to happen. He wished he could go look for Naruto himself, but his Hokage duties would not allow it. However, at least while he was here he could keep his eyes on Danzo and track his movements. Speaking of which, he reached into a drawer in his desk and pulled out a scroll. He quickly wrote something down in it, and then made another hand sign. Another ANBU appeared. "Yes, sir?" Hiruzen held the scroll out to him. "I have a mission for the ANBU member in this scroll. This is highly secretive. Please make sure he destroys the scroll upon receiving it." The ANBU received the scroll and tucked it into his jacket. "Yes, my lord, right away," he said as he too disappeared in a swirl of leaves. Now all he had to do was wait. He needed someone highly skilled to tail Danzo, someone that would not be caught, and he had someone in particular in mind. By the time Kakashi had reached a few miles outside of the village, he could no longer track Naruto's scent on his own. He decided it was time to bring in his ninja hounds. He bit down on his thumb and drew blood. He then went through a series of hand signs and slammed his hand onto the dirt path, summoning jutsu. A cloud of smoke appeared where his hand had been, and after the smoke faded there were 8 ninja hounds, each one having a unique appearance. They all wore blue outfits with the leaf symbol on their foreheads. "What can we do for you, Kakashi?" asked the pug. He was the smallest of all the dogs. He reached into his pocket and held out the headband. "Naruto Uzumaki has left the village. We need to find him as soon as possible. This is his headband, you should be able to track him with it," he explained. The hounds all gathered and sniffed the headband. Then, the small pug spoke up. "We've got the scent, Kakashi, follow us." "Thanks, Pakin!" exclaimed Kakashi. He was more than ready to get a move on. Naruto had gotten several hours ahead of them, so they needed to make up that ground. He needed to find him before an enemy did. Ever since Kakashi had been called into the Hokage's office early this morning, he has been racking his brain trying to figure out why Naruto had left. He felt like such a fool. Naruto had been showing signs of severe fatigue yesterday. He should have pressed him more on it. Or he should have postponed training that day so he could talk to him more. "Who am I kidding?" he thought to himself. "My mistakes with Naruto began long before now. If I had just been there for him instead of keeping an eye on him from afar, then maybe he wouldn't be in this situation." Yes, Kakashi had been watching him all this time. No one knew, not even the Hokage. But Naruto was his sensei's only son. He had to keep watch over him, make sure he didn't get hurt. But he had failed. While he hadn't let Naruto get hurt physically, Naruto's heart and mind had been severely damaged by his upbringing. That wasn't hard to see. After a certain amount of years, Kakashi thought about coming to him then, but he didn't out of fear. He was afraid Naruto would hate him for not being there for him earlier. He cringed mentally at his own stupidity. So what if Naruto had hated him? He would have gotten over it in time probably, and then he would have had someone who cared for him, someone who he knew would always be there for him. There was no getting around it in Kakashi's mind. He had let his sensei down. He knew Minato would be appalled at what was going on right now. "Minato-sensei, I'm so sorry. I allowed it to get to this point. I should have taken better care of Naruto, been more than just a sensei to him just like you were to me, but I promise when I find him, things will be different. I swear it." It wasn't just a promise to his late sensei, it was a promise to himself. Naruto would have someone to rely on. No matter what. Sasuke was incredibly irritated at the moment. He had awoken feeling that way. As soon as the rays of the sun had peeked in through his curtain, he was annoyed. He knew that another day meant more racking his brain over the most infuriating distraction there was, Naruto Uzumaki. Something was going on with Naruto, that was easy enough to see. Sasuke had noticed it ever since the day they were placed into teams. Sure, the old Naruto was still there, but he had changed quite a bit. Others may have chalked it up to the death of Iruka-sensei, but Sasuke knew better. Something else was going on, he could feel it. Things got even worse yesterday when Naruto had shown up for training. He looked like the literal definition of death. Sasuke couldn't believe how terrible he looked. What on earth could be troubling him that much? Naruto had tried to throw out some lame brain excuse about being too excited to sleep, but Sasuke didn't believe it for a second. Then an even bigger surprise came yesterday afternoon after the bell test Kakashi had given them. He was thankful that they had passed. He couldn't afford to spend another year at the academy, that was for sure. On his way home, he had spotted someone passed out in the dirt. Upon closer inspection, he realized that the passed-out figure was none other than Konoha's #1 unpredictable knucklehead ninja. He let out a frustrated sigh when had found him. He must have exhausted all of his energy during training. Well, he couldn't just leave him there, so he threw the blonde knucklehead over his shoulder and brought him to the hospital. Thankfully, the Hokage had been there on business, so he was made aware of the predicament. The Hokage had thanked Sasuke and told him he would handle it from there. Sasuke let out a frustrated groan. He couldn't understand why Naruto's troubles were affecting him so much. Why did he care what was going on with Naruto all of a sudden? It shouldn't matter to him. He had known Naruto for a long time. He knew that Naruto was an outcast and had no family. He was probably the only one in the village who could understand Sasuke's pain and loneliness. Sasuke had even considered trying to be his friend a time or two, but decided against it. He didn't need friends for what he wanted. And what did he want? It was simple. Sasuke simply wanted nothing more than to see his older brother Itachi lying dead at his feet. He's wanted that desperately since his entire clan had been slaughtered, and nothing had ever been able to distract him from it. Until now. That's why he was so irritated. How had Naruto managed to get under his skin? He was nothing more than a loser, the dead last at the academy. Sasuke wanted nothing to do with him, and yet he couldn't help but feel he needed to help Naruto. He wasn't sure why, but it was as if there was an unspoken connection between them. He wondered if Naruto felt that way too. Perhaps the shared pain had made that connection possible. Although they had never gotten along, they understood each other in a way that others just couldn't. One thing was for sure, whatever was wrong with him, Sasuke would need to find out and help him get over it. Right now, Naruto was becoming a huge distraction from Itachi, and he couldn't allow that to continue. Whatever the dope is dealing with, I'll find out about it and help him move on from it. After all, I can't afford to waste any time in attaining my goal. I will avenge the Uchiha. Sasuke was brought out of his thoughts by a knock at the door. He hadn't been expecting anybody, so he wondered who would be here this early. He opened the door to find an Anbu in a bear mask standing in front of him. What is it? He questioned him. Sasuke Uchiha, he began, Kakashi Hatake is currently out of the village on an S-rank mission. Because of this, he regrettably will not be able to oversee your training. You will temporarily be training with Team 10 and Asuma Sarutobi. These orders are directly from the Hokage. That is all. Before Sasuke could say anything else, the Anbu had disappeared. What the hell? An S-rank mission? And now I'm stuck being around an Ino girl all day? Great. He thought sarcastically. He wondered if Naruto and Sakura would be joining him as well, or if they would be training with other squads. It wasn't ideal, but training was training. He would have to push himself either way. Then afterwards, he could question Naruto until he figured out what was wrong with him. That was the plan for the day. Sakura had already been up for a while going about her day. She had gotten dressed early and came downstairs to her mother cooking a delicious breakfast and her father drinking coffee and reading the paper. It was a normal day at the Haruno residence. She wondered how things would be different if she were alone like Naruto. Ever since her discussion with Sasuke yesterday, she had begun to think about how Naruto never had any parents or family of any kind. Having a family to be there for her was always something she had taken for granted. She had never thought about how bad Naruto had it. He always put on such an act around people, making them think that everything was fine. However, she knew now that he was everything but fine. After seeing his condition yesterday, that had been obvious. Sakura admonished herself for always being so mean to Naruto. It had started because she had gotten annoyed at his repeated attempts to ask her out. She didn't like him that way, so she thought she needed to be mean to him in order to get him to back off. Of course it didn't work. Naruto was persistent, and now all she could think about was how she could have been a friend to him if nothing else. She wasn't sure if he even had any friends. That thought really troubled her. She had friends, she had a family. Her life was easy in comparison. Naruto had none of those things, and he was definitely going through a rough time. Who would be there for him? Who would he talk to? Sakura felt a pang of sadness run through her when she couldn't think of an answer. Just then, she heard her mother poke her head in from the living room. Sakura, someone is here to see you. She called. Ooh. I wonder if it could be Sasuke-kun. Probably not, but I can dream, right? She made her way into the living room to see an Anbu Black Ops standing by the front door. Hello, she said nervously. Hello, Sakura Haruno. I have been ordered by the Hokage to deliver you a message. Kakashi Hatake is currently away from the village on an S-rank mission. Regrettably, he will be unable to oversee training and missions for Team 7 in the near future. You will temporarily be assigned to train with Team 8 and Kurenai Yuhi until he returns. Good day. Sakura opened her mouth to respond, but before she could he was out the door and gone. So, Kakashi was gone on an S-rank mission? It must have been an emergency for him to leave before filling them in himself. She wondered where he had gone to. She was curious to see where Naruto and Sasuke would be assigned during this time. She doubted they would be training together, considering adding 3 new members to one team seemed like a bit much, even if it was temporary. Oh well, I wasn't expecting this, but the life of a kunoichi is an unpredictable one. I'll just have to adapt, and if I see Naruto today, I'll be sure to be really nice to him. I'll be a friend to him. Maybe it will help him get through whatever he's dealing with. She thought hopefully. In any case, Naruto had always been nice to her, and like many things, she had taken it for granted. She told herself that would no longer be the case. Even if she wouldn't date him, she wouldn't allow herself to be a reason he thought negatively about himself. He deserved some happiness. Hiruzen tapped his fingers against his desk nervously. He couldn't stop fidgeting. All this waiting was making him crazy. He had attempted to distract himself with paperwork, but to no avail. He would feel much better once his ANBU agent arrived. Just as the thought entered his mind, there was a flash in front of his desk. He calmly looked up and saw a young ANBU member with chestnut hair and a mask that looked somewhat like a cross between a fox and a cat. So you've received my message, have you? He asked the young man. The ANBU straightened up upon being addressed. Yes, sir. And I disposed of the message, just as you asked? Were you followed? No. I made sure. I am alone, he assured him. Hiruzen stood up from his desk and began to stare out the window as he spoke. The mission I am assigning you is top secret. No one, I repeat, no one can know about it. This is an S-rank mission, do you understand? Yes, sir, he answered. Hiruzen turned to face him. I need you to tail Danzo Shimura. I want to know what he's doing, where's he's going, and who he's associating with. If he goes to the bathroom, I want to know about it. At 6 a.m. every morning you will report to me the previous day's activities. You cannot be caught. Can I trust you with this assignment? Yes, sir, of course. I will succeed. He spoke confidently. Hiruzen exhaled. Thank you, Tenzo. So far everything had been going according to plan for Kakashi. He had been traveling along a path through the forest following Naruto's scent. It seemed at this rate, Kakashi would find Naruto in no time. Maybe he wouldn't need to meet up with Master Jiraiya after all. He knew the Hokage had already sent him a letter explaining everything, but he could easily send him another one telling him not to worry about it. Suddenly, the hounds came to a complete stop and Kakashi froze in his tracks as well. They seemed a bit puzzled by something. What's wrong? Kakashi asked Pakken. Well, it seems Naruto was expecting someone to track him by scent. I can smell Naruto's scent coming from exactly 100 different directions, he explained. Kakashi let out an exasperated groan. You've got to be kidding me. Well, we've got no choice. We have to split up and check each scent. Maybe we'll get lucky and guess the correct one early on. Let's go. In an instant Kakashi and the hounds split up and took off in different directions. Kakashi knew that he was supposed to be meeting Jiraiya in Tenzoku Town, but if he could manage to find Naruto before then, that would be ideal. However, a part of him wondered if he would be able to reach Naruto emotionally like Jiraiya could. Maybe Naruto hadn't met Jiraiya yet, but that didn't change the fact that Jiraiya was Minato's sensei, and he is also Naruto's godfather. In Kakashi's mind, that could give him a leg up. Of course he could always drag Naruto back by force, but at some point they would have to address the issue of why Naruto ran off. He had to want to remain in Konoha, otherwise he would feel like nothing more than a prisoner in his own home. Kakashi was brought out of his thoughts when he realized he was getting closer to one of the scents. He was brought to the top branch of a tree. There, he discovered how Naruto had thrown off their noses. There, pinned to the tree was a small strip of Naruto's orange jumpsuit. He must have torn up his jacket into many pieces and then spread them throughout the forest. I have to say, I'm surprised he thought of something like that, Kakashi sighed. He knew that this had the potential to set them back at least a few hours, and that was time that they didn't have. Hinata had forced herself to get ready that day. She vaguely remembers some members of the clan questioning where she had been when she got home, but she had not bothered to answer them. She was using all of her energy to will herself to her bathroom so she could take a shower and get ready for training. As she stared at herself in the mirror, wearing nothing but a towel, she felt disgusted. She had never felt more negative about herself than she did right in this moment. In the mirror, she didn't see the shy Hyuga girl who pushed forward no matter what. That's what she used to see. Now she only saw a girl who was a complete failure. She had failed to be there for Naruto like she should have been. She should have approached him years ago, but she let her painful shyness get the better of her. She had failed to find out what was wrong with Naruto. She knew there was something wrong with him. It had been obvious. However, she had decided not to press him about it. She didn't want to put pressure on him to talk about it if he didn't want to. That had been a huge mistake. One she would always regret. Lastly, she had failed to stop him from leaving. She had only been able to cry and beg him to stay. She had even gotten desperate enough to confess her love to him, hoping by some miracle that would be enough to make him stay. What a joke. She couldn't believe she had done that. It had been all for nothing, and he probably thought she was insane or something. Sobbing like that in front of him, pleading with him, telling him she loved him, he was probably repulsed by her. And it had all been for nothing. He was gone. She wondered how she could be expected to go about her day like everything was fine, like she wasn't breaking apart on the inside, like she wasn't fighting the urge to weep openly every second she was conscious. She pulled the towel away from her body, shivering involuntarily at the cool air. She turned to hang it on the rack and find some clothes to put on. She couldn't stand to look at herself in the mirror any longer. She settled for her usual navy blue pants and top, along with her tan jacket and sandals. It was her normal outfit. Slipping it on was just going through the motions for her. That would be what this day was about. Just going through the motions. As she approached her bedroom door, she steeled herself before walking through it. She would have to do her best to put up a strong front for the outside world. They couldn't know how bad she was hurting, how broken she was. She exhaled, and turned the knob to open the door. She swiftly made her way through the compound and outside of the gates. She didn't want to take her time and chance running into her father or Hanabi. Or worse, Niji. She couldn't deal with any of them today. It would be too much for her, and her bravado would come crumbling apart. If she cried in front of her father or Niji, she would never hear the end of it. She would never hear the end of how weak and fragile she was, although at the moment she couldn't blame anyone for thinking that of her. She began walking towards the training grounds, hoping with everything she had that she would get through the day without falling apart. He continued leaping through the trees over and over, hour after hour. He didn't think it would ever end. He felt like he had been doing nothing but this for days, even though it had only been hours. At this point it was just muscle memory. He had shut his mind off to what his body was doing long ago. No, he couldn't focus his mind on moving, because his brain was too overcome with the gut-wrenching pain in his heart. It was too focused on the horrible emptiness he felt. It was too preoccupied on how dead he was on the inside, like his very soul had been extracted. He wasn't sure when he had stopped watching where he was going. Maybe it was hours ago. Maybe it had only been a few minutes. Who knows? He couldn't see the forest anymore. All he could see was her face, her expression full of sadness and heartbreak, her eyes red and puffy, fresh tears streaming down her cheeks, her lips quivering as she cried and pleaded with him not to go. He could still hear her voice in his ears too. Her confession ringing over and over again in his ears. I love you. I don't want safety. I want you. I would be miserable without you. Please just stay here. It was torture. He felt like he was slowly slipping into madness from the overwhelming pain he felt. He didn't even notice the tears that began to slip from his eyes. Snap out of it, kid. Those leaf ninja are already tracking you. Stay sharp. Naruto blinked away his daydream. Easy for you to say. You saw what happened. You heard what she said to me. So what? You're going to start doubting yourself because of some girl? The fox yelled in his head. Naruto's eyebrows furrowed, and his sadness was quickly replaced with anger. She's not just some girl. She's anything but just some girl. She's amazing. She's the first person to tell me that they love me. She's perfect. And he paused. He let her down. He left her behind after all that. After she poured her heart out to him. He knew it was what needed to be done, but that didn't make it any easier. He broke her heart. She must hate him now. She must think he's an awful human being. She probably never wants to see him again. Soul-crushing guilt had taken up permanent residence in his heart. He would never forgive himself for making her cry like that. It destroyed him to see her that way, to know he was the cause. He would never forget the look on her face. He had no idea whether he returned her love or not. The concept of love was so foreign to him, he didn't know what to think. It didn't matter, he knew that. He would never see her again. But he still dwelled on it. His mind and heart were consumed by her. She haunted his thoughts every waking moment, since she told him she loved him. I don't pretend to understand human emotions, the fox began, but what you're feeling doesn't change the fact we still have to avoid whoever they sent after you. You were smart to listen to me about throwing off their noses. But eventually they'll track us down. You need to get somewhere they can't track you, somewhere your scent will be lost to them. Somewhere even the Byakugan can't see. Naruto scoffed. And where exactly do you expect to find a place like that? Actually, I know of a place. Naruto landed on a tree and stopped his movement. How on earth do you know of a place like that? You've been cooped up inside of me for 12 years. Ninetales growled. Bah. Must I explain everything to you, brat? Your mother was my Jinchuriki, and she wasn't from that damned Konoha. There's an island that's abandoned now. It's called Yuzushiogakure. If we go there it will be very hard for someone to track us down. He explained. Well, I didn't know that, he countered anyway. Do you know how to get there? Yes. But you need supplies first. Find some quick and let's get moving. But wait. I look like me. If someone from Konoha comes around and asks questions, the people in town will just point them in my direction. What do I do about that? He questioned. The fox let out a groan. Baka. Just use that jutsu where you transform. Moron. Oh yeah. He said out loud. He would just use the transformation jutsu before he entered town. That way no one would be able to recognize him. Then they would go to Yuzu and hopefully lose whoever was tracking them. Naruto was actually grateful that Ninetales was speaking to him. Even though they didn't like each other, it was a distraction, because if it got too quiet, he would just begin to think about pale lavender eyes filled with tears. He would deal with anything to take his mind off of his own broken heart. Hey, Ninetales? Humph. What is it? He hesitated, while I was wondering. Just spit it out. Well, we're going to be each other's only company for a while now. So I was hoping I could call you by your real name. He explained. Ninetales didn't say anything for a moment. Naruto was hoping he hadn't angered him. You want to know my name? Well, yeah. Naruto was curious. He did have one, right? Kurama. What? That's my name. Kurama. He responded. Kurama, I like it. He sighed in comfort as he relaxed into the plushy corner booth of his favorite tavern. The sake had drowned away his inhibitions as usual, and now all of that was replaced with high spirits and a warm feeling in his cheeks. He giggled lecherously as the two blonde beauties on either side of him began to cuddle closer to him as he told his old war stories. This was always the highlight of his week. He would save up his earnings from his many erotic novels currently on the market, and then treat himself at the end of the week. Brothels, taverns, parties, this was the life. He threw his arm around the lovely lady on his left as he began enthusiastically retelling the battle of he and his teammates versus Hanzo the Salamander. He supposed a part of him missed the old days. Sure, he ran a spy network for Konoha and would always come home if his old sensei needed him, but it's not like the action-packed days of old. He and his old pal Orochimaru along with the busted beauty Tsunade. Together they were an unstoppable team. Now, their team is nothing more than tattered ruins of their former selves. He's a drunk old pervert, even he would admit that. Tsunade is a wandering gambler who does nothing but drink away the few earnings she manages to win. And Orochimaru, he'd rather not think about that. This was his life now, along with maintaining his spy network. Great food, great sake and great women. What more could he want? Is that really what happened? Inquired the blonde on his right. Of course. He exclaimed proudly, that's when we became known as the legendary Sannin. Pretty great stuff, huh? Just as he was about to leap into another one of his dramatic escapades, felt a tap on his shoulder. He shifted his drunken gaze upwards to see an elder gentleman, holding a scroll out to him. Are you Jiraiya? He smiled giddily. Why yes I am. This scroll came by messenger hawk. It's for you. He figured it must be the Hokage asking questions again, or his publisher wanting to know when he would be done with his next book. He sighed and took the scroll from the man, thanking him. He unsealed the scroll and began reading its contents carefully, the task taking a bit longer in his inebriated state. His eyes widened, and he audibly gasped. Ladies, I'm sorry about this, but I have to run. Keep in touch? He said as he winked. By Master Jiraiya. Both women said in unison, using a sultry tone. Normally that would have floored him, but he was too focused on the document he held in his hand. He made his way outside of the tavern, allowing the cool air to hit his heated skin. He took a deep breath, attempting to lose of some his buzz from the sake. This scroll was different than any he had received in years. He looked up to the full moon and closed his eyes, letting the news from the scroll sink in. Naruto. Lord Hiruzen sat anxiously in his seat, tapping his fingers against the desk. He kept exhaling every few minutes, trying in vain to calm his nerves. The realization of what he was about to admit was getting to him. Releasing this information to even a couple of people was bound to cause the information to eventually spread. He knew he wouldn't be able to keep it a secret forever, but if the secret leaked out too quickly, things could go south for him and Konoha. Before him stood a young pink-haired kunoichi with her arms behind her back and her eyes shifting around the room, intentionally avoiding eye contact with him. It was obvious that she could also sense the awkward atmosphere floating around the room. Finally, the tense feeling was broken when the door opened, and in came a raven-haired boy with pale skin and black eyes. Now that both Sakura Haruno and Sasuke Uchiha were present, he would be able to let them in on this secret too. Today was the day. He would have to fill them in on what was going on. They would start asking questions eventually, and he would rather them hear it from him. He just needed to make sure he worded the news carefully. They had to know that this was top secret, and they could tell no one. He sighed and laced his fingers together in front of him. It was now or never. Good morning, you two. I'm sure you're wondering why I've called you here today. Sakura's expression showed that she was thinking just that. Sir, if this is about our team, shouldn't we wait for Naruto? Hiruzen winced. This is about Naruto, isn't it? Sasuke guessed. Yes, I'm afraid so. I would normally keep you both in the dark, but you'll find out eventually anyway. You're aware that Kakashi is on an S-ranked mission, correct? He asked them. Both genin nodded. Well, that mission is a retrieval mission. I ordered Kakashi to meet up with Jiraiya of the Sannin and track down Naruto. In the early hours of the morning yesterday, Naruto left the village with no intent to return. Thanks to Hinata, we know he fled around 1 o'clock in the morning. Kakashi is tasked with bringing him home. He explained. Both genin seemed absolutely stunned, especially Sakura. But Lord Hokage, I don't understand why would Naruto leave the village. He wants to become Hokage. It doesn't make any sense. She was frantic. Sasuke had seemingly calmed down a bit. What's being kept from us? Sir, I know Naruto's been dealing with something other than Iruka-sensei's death. Hiruzen had already planned on telling them that part too. As Naruto's teammates, they needed to know the truth. He was just surprised to see that Sasuke had already figured that much out. Very well, I had already planned on informing you anyway, he began. He had their full attention. Naruto's upbringing has been most unusual. You both know Naruto is an orphan. He went many years without knowing who his parents were. He has no living relatives. If you two have been attention, you may have also noticed that until recently Naruto had no friends either. Sakura looked down in shame. She felt responsible for that. Even though she wasn't the only one being mean to him, she certainly hadn't helped things. There's a big reason for that. Many of the adults throughout the village have urged their children to keep away from him. Not only that, but many in your generation have emulated their seniors in their treatment of Naruto. He has been scorned, insulted, ignored, and feared his entire life. It's been hard for him. Though he has always hidden it well, wearing the mask of a smile and a laugh. But Lord Hokage, Sakura interjected, why are people so mean to him? Did he do something bad? Hiruzen's face turned serious. His expression held a slight hint of anger. On the contrary, Naruto is completely innocent of any wrongdoing. The reason he is feared and hated by many is because of something that happened to him long ago. He paused. His next words were very important. Before I continue, I want you two to realize something. Naruto is Naruto. He is not a bad person, and certainly not someone to be feared like some people believe. What I'm about to tell you is an S-rank secret. You are not to disclose this to anyone, as it is against the law to do so. Do you understand? Both Sasuke and Sakura nodded, both standing on edge waiting for him to continue. 12 years ago on October 10th, the nine-tailed fox attacked Konoha and killed many people. It was a devastating day for this village. You are both aware that the Nine-Tails was defeated by the fourth Hokage, Minato Namikaze. What very few know are the details of what exactly occurred that night. I'm going to tell you that right now. Sakura was holding her breath, while Sasuke was hanging on to every word. The Nine-Tails, at the time, was not a beast that simply roamed free. He was sealed inside of a person at the time. Those who contain these tailed beasts are known as Jinchuriki. The Jinchuriki of the Nine-Tails at the time was a woman by the name of Kushina Uzumaki. Naruto's mother, Sasuke guessed. Sakura gasped. Hiruzen nodded yes. Kushina contained the Nine-Tails for years, but due to childbirth her seal had weakened, and the Nine-Tails escaped. Unfortunately those who were watching over the seal during the birth are no longer with us, so the details of the escape are unknown to us. You should know that when a Jinchuriki loses their tailed beast, they die automatically. Kushina initially survived, but she would not live much longer. He paused. Kushina had managed to use her remaining strength to restrain the Nine-Tails, while Lord Fourth thought of a solution. You see, Minato and Kushina were married. Both genin stood mouth agape, eyes wide. They were shocked into silence. Yes, the fourth Hokage was Naruto's father. We kept it a secret because he had many enemies who would have targeted Naruto at the first opportunity. Anyway, there was only one way to stop the beast at that point. Kushina was too weak to endure the Nine-Tails being sealed into her again, as she was dying, and Minato's chakra was not enough to contain the full strength of Nine-Tails. So you see, there was only one option. Hiruzen explained, giving them a chance to let the information sink in. Naruto was the option, wasn't he? Sasuke asked. Sakura looked at him with wide eyes, her breathing becoming shallow. You're right. The Uzumaki clan from Uzushiobukyu are ideal for containing the Nine-Tails. They possess powerful chakra and life force. Naruto inherited this from his mother. However, his body was still too small to contain all of the Nine-Tails chakra. So Minato did what he had to. He sacrificed himself to use the Reaper Death Seal, splitting the beast's chakra in half and sealing one half inside of himself. The other half of the Nine-Tails he sealed into Naruto using an 8-tetragram seal, thus making Naruto the new Jinchuriki of the Nine-Tails. Minato and Kushina then succumbed to their injuries and died, leaving Naruto behind. There, he had explained everything to them. He only wondered now how they would react. He tried to read their faces, hoping they would respond appropriately. Sasuke seemed to be deep in thought, while Sakura looked like she was about to cry. Right on cue, Sakura's eyes welled up with fresh tears. But no, I don't understand how come no one knew. He closed his eyes, the shame of his past mistake building up inside of him again. It was my doing. You see, I had hoped that Naruto could have a normal life, at least for a while. I didn't want the burden of being a Jinchuriki to overwhelm him, so I made a law forbidding anyone from talking about the Nine-Tails. Naturally, it did nothing to help. Many adults simply looked at him with contempt and fear, and cast him aside. He's been through so much. Sakura screwed her eyes shut, but the tears flowed out anyway. She clenched her fists tightly at her side and began trembling slightly. Hiruzen had expected some things, but tears were not among them. Sasuke glanced over at Sakura with a troubled expression. Sakura, why are you? He trailed off. Because I'm guilty, she shouted, surprising both Sasuke and the Hokage. I've been so mean to Naruto over the years. I just thought he was annoying, so I pushed him aside and called him a loser. I had no idea what he was dealing with. No friends, no family, and now the Nine-Tails? I can't believe how terrible I've been, poor Naruto. I'm so sorry, she hiccuped and sniffled as the tears flowed down her face. Sasuke appeared to be unusually distressed at Sakura's reaction, and the Hokage wasn't sure what to say. He certainly couldn't fault Sakura. How could she have known? Of course, it's never okay to bully someone, but she is only a child and she is obviously remorseful for her actions. He sighed, hoping his next words would be of some value to her. Sakura, I know how you must feel. Truth be told, I have felt responsible for Naruto's departure as well. I should have looked out for him more, checked in on him more often. I should have told him the truth long ago. You see, the night of Iruka's death, Mizuki exposed the truth to Naruto. All of those things happening at once took its toll on him, and he is still attempting to cope with all of the new information and emotions. I know that your sensei feels guilty as well. As do many of us. He explained. Sakura rubbed her eyes in an attempt to stop her tears, trying to listen to his words. Sakura, all we can do for Naruto now is support him the best we can, however we can. Once he returns, he will likely not be happy. You see, he left the village because he believed he was endangering everyone by staying. He was trying to protect us all. In fact, he left me a letter before he ran. In it, he specifically asked me to watch over Team 7. We have to encourage him and let him know that he doesn't have to bear this burden alone, that we are here to stand by his side no matter what, and that he can always come to us for assistance. All we can do now is look to the future. He spoke with conviction. Sakura wiped away the last of her tears, determination filling her eyes. You're right. I promise from here on out, I will be Naruto's friend and comrade. He'll be able to trust me no matter what. You can count on me, Lord Hokage, and me as well. Sasuke added, surprising the elder Hokage. He was thrilled that both had resolved to be there for Naruto. It was vital that once he returned, Naruto would have an amazing support system, and it appeared as though he would. He wouldn't be alone anymore. Alright, you two. Before I allow you to leave, I must reiterate the seriousness of this information. Nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing of what was spoken about in here can be mentioned to anyone except myself, Kakashi, and Hinata Hyuga. Also, if you must speak to one of us, make sure it is a private area where no one will be listening in. He ordered. Wait, Sasuke began, Hinata Hyuga? Oh, he had almost forgotten about that, yes. Apparently, she and Naruto had a sort of confrontation the night he left. She tried to stop him from running away, but knocked her out and left her on a bench so he could leave. Please, I ask that if you must speak with her, you approach the subject delicately. She is quite upset over what happened. Also, she has been kept in the dark about the Nine Tails and Naruto's parents. I ask that you keep it that way for now. Per Hinata, Sakura said, eyes downcast. Yes, sir. Don't worry. Sasuke stated. Very good. You are dismissed. Hinata had awoken to another day. Misery filling her heart once again. She dreamed about him. She had once again seen his blue eyes looking into hers, filled with emotion. She had heard him say he was leaving, say he was sorry, and then she had woken up. She willed her tears not to come out. If she began crying again, she didn't know when she would be able to stop. It was so hard to control her emotions since he was gone. Every second of her day was devoted to making sure she didn't fall apart in front of everyone. Training the day before had been particularly difficult. Going through the motions of her taijutsu, sparring with Kiba, Shino, and Sakura, speaking with Kurenai-sensei, and pretending like nothing was wrong. It was maddening. Yesterday she had trudged home after training, desperate to get to her bedroom and shut everyone else out. She hadn't come to dinner, something she would surely be hearing from her father about. She figured in order to keep her family from becoming more suspicious, she should probably come to breakfast. After she had taken a shower and dressed herself, she made her way down to the dining area where her father and Hanabi were already seated eating breakfast. Right on cue, Hayashi fixed his stare on Hinata. Hinata, you did not join us for dinner last night, he said, stating the obvious. Here it comes, she said to herself. Yes, father, I was feeling a bit under the weather after training, she explained. Hayashi's expression remained unreadable. Yes, I see. Nevertheless, next time inform Ko so that he can tell me. I need to know if my daughter will not be joining us for a meal. She bowed her head. Yes, sir, my apologies, she said. She raised her head and made her way over to the table and took her seat across from Hanabi. Before, Hinata's chair was always seated closest to her father, and on the right side of him. Now, that was Hanabi's spot. It was a symbol of her superiority, and the fact that Hanabi was now the heiress to the Hyuga clan. Hinata, Hayashi began, how is your training going? She strengthened her resolve, determined to hide her feelings. It's going well, father. Kurenai-sensei said my reaction time in the gentle fist style is improving. I see. Very good. But I will be the judge of that, he responded. Hinata inwardly groaned. Why did her father always have to doubt her? Hinata ate a few more bites of her food before excusing herself, explaining that she had to go meet with her team for training. Anytime training was involved, her father never questioned her. He allowed her to leave and Hinata darted out of the compound at top speed, not wanting to speak with her father another minute. As she ran through the streets of the village, she couldn't help but notice how quiet it seemed. Sure, there was the normal sound of people conversing around the shops and restaurants, but there was something missing. Maybe no one else would notice, but to her it was as clear as day. This village wasn't the same without him. She shook her head of her current thoughts and kept jogging onward. Up ahead, she could make out the training grounds. She was the last to arrive, just like yesterday. Even Sakura was already there, and she wasn't even a true member of Team 8. She sighed, and wondered if they thought she was slacking off. She came to a stop next to Kiba, who gave her a big toothy grin as usual. He was always happy to see her, along with Akamaru. Shino, she was never sure, because his face was always buried beneath his high collar and his round sunglasses. Kurenai-sensei always gave her a soft smile. She was quite close with her sensei, who had taken her under her wings since she had been removed from her title as clan heiress. And Sakura, who was always nice to her, seemed to smile at her even more brightly than usual. She wasn't sure what that was about, but she returned her smile nonetheless. She didn't know if her fake smile was convincing, but she was doing her best. Kurenai cleared her throat and all 4 genin turned their attention to her. Alright everyone, as I told you yesterday, Sakura is training with us. This is the setup indefinitely until Kakashi returns. Sakura, yesterday I felt like you were holding back on us. Please don't feel like you have to do that. Treat us as if we were your actual team. Yes, sensei. Sakura replied. Now, Kurenai continued, today I would like to focus on avoiding attacks and countering. Not just stopping attacks, but dodging them altogether. If you can stop an attack without having to use chakra, you help yourself in the long run. The Hyuga's gentle fist style uses this technique very effectively. Hinata, would you join me for a moment for a demonstration? Oh great, that's just what she needed, all eyes on her. In her current state of mind, that's exactly what she didn't want. Don't worry, just do some gentle fist and be done with it, then you can train. She told herself. With that, she marched up next to Kurenai's side and got into her taijutsu stance. Alright, so Hinata is currently in her gentle fist stance. I am going to attempt to strike her, and she will evade and counter accordingly without using chakra. Are you ready, Hinata? Hinata had seemingly zoned out, her focus not on anything in particular, not hearing what Kurenai was saying. Hinata? Hinata? Hello? She blinked rapidly and shook her head. Why yes, Kurenai-sensei, I heard you. Let's go. She said as she concentrated her stare on Kurenai. Kurenai paused for a moment, seeming unsure, but then continued, right, okay. Alright Hinata, here goes. She said as she leapt forward to strike at Hinata's head. Hinata's basic instincts took over as she sidestepped the attack without difficulty and countered with a palm strike to the chest, making Kurenai stumble backwards. She made sure to withhold any chakra in the strike so that it would not harm her sensei. Kurenai regained her balance and smiled at Hinata. Excellent. Now I'm not asking all of you to do it exactly like Hinata did it, but you get the basic idea. Evade without using unnecessary chakra, then counter effectively. Team up into 2 pairs, Kiba with Shino and Hinata with Sakura. Begin. Hinata was relieved to hear she would be with Sakura. Not that she and Sakura were particularly close, but yesterday Kiba had been trying to get a little too close to her, and she didn't want anything to do with it. Sometimes he was a little overly friendly with her, so to speak. She nodded to Kurenai, and then walked over to take her stance in front of Sakura. Sakura got into her own stance, and smiled softly at Hinata. Let's do our best, okay Hinata? Hinata wasn't sure why, but Sakura's attitude was making her feel a bit better. Maybe it was because it reminded her of him. Why yes. Okay. She shouted before she could let herself think on it too much. Instantly Sakura jumped towards her and aimed her fist at Hinata's head. Hinata ducked and shot her palm towards Sakura's chin. Sakura spun out of the way and leapt behind Hinata. She swung her fist at the back of Hinata's head, seeming sure she would get her before Hinata instantly ducked, causing Sakura to lose her balance and tumble right over top of her onto the ground. As Hinata went to extend a hand towards Sakura to help her up, a look of recognition came over her face. Ah! I can't believe I forgot about the Byakugan. I wondered how you could see where I had aimed. I'll have to try to find a way to counter that, exclaimed Sakura. They went ahead with the exercise for a couple of hours before both pairs were completely wiped out. All 4 genin sat on the ground covered with sweat, attempting to calm their heavy breathing. Hinata had actually enjoyed this training session. She found that she really liked training with Sakura as opposed to Kiba. It was nothing against Kiba personally, but because of his recent behavior towards her, she felt as though she couldn't be comfortable around him. With Sakura, it just felt like sparring with a friend. It was nice, and it took her mind off of things. Good work today everyone. Kurenai shouted to the group. Tomorrow Team 8 has a mission, and we depart at 7 a.m. Nothing major, just a regular D-rank mission. Sakura, this means that you will have tomorrow off. Sakura deflated a little at hearing this. Hinata was sure that not being able to participate in missions was a bit of a downer. Now you all are dismissed for the day, Kurenai announced as she turned to leave her team. Hinata wiped the sweat from her brow and used what strength she had left to get to her feet. She was hungry and could go for a hot meal, but she didn't want to go home just yet. She hated being at home, because she always felt more alone when she was there. Hinata-chan! Hey! Right on cue, Kiba came running up to her, excitement lighting up his eyes. Hinata already knew where this was going. Hi Kiba-kun. She greeted him. Hinata-chan, why do you say we run over to Yakiniku for a meal, just the 2 of us? My treat? He questioned. Yep. She knew he was going to ask her out. He had done so many times already since they had been teammates, but of course she wasn't interested. She liked Kiba as a friend, nothing more. He couldn't make her heart melt like Naruto could. It wasn't even close. Sorry Kiba-kun, but I really should get going. Come on. He interrupted. Surely you can spare an hour. He insisted as he threw his arm over her shoulder. She flinched involuntarily. Kiba-kun, I really don't think she was cut off once again. Come on Hinata-chan. Let's go, he said as he attempted to lead her away. Hey! Dog boy! Hinata heard as they both stopped in their tracks and turned their heads. The voice belonged to none other than Sakura. Kiba's expression turned sour. What do you want, Haruno? Sakura placed her hands on her hips and began tapping her foot. I want you to actually let Hinata talk. If you had, you would have heard her say that she and I already have plans for a ladies' night. Right, Hinata? She said as she grinned cheekily at them both. Kiba glanced down at Hinata. She knew right away what Sakura was doing, and was eternally grateful. Yes. Sakura-chan and I are going to the cafe to get some sweets. Right, Sakura-chan? Of course. So Kiba, why don't you run along and go roll in the mud with Akamaru? We have places to be. Sakura remarked as her smile grew. Kiba did not look pleased by this development. TCH. Fine, whatever. See you later, Hinata-chan. He huffed as he and Akamaru trotted away. Hinata ran up to Sakura and uncharacteristically hugged her. Thank you. He's been all over me lately. It's unbearable. Sakura giggled. Hey, don't mention it. Kiba comes on really strong and you're just too nice to tell him like it is. So, I decided my intervention was needed. Anyway, I was actually hoping we could hang out. I'd like to talk with you, just us girls. She confessed. Oh. Hinata said as she backed off a bit. Well, that would be nice. I certainly don't feel like going home yet. Where would you like to go? We don't have to go to the cafe. Sakura grinned. Actually, that sounds nice. I'd like to have some tea and maybe some enmitsu while we're there. Let's go. She exclaimed. Yeah. Hinata added as the two left the training grounds and made their way through the village. They discussed their training, their teams, and many other things. Hinata felt like she could be comfortable around Sakura, and the number of people she felt like that around were few. For once since Naruto had left, Hinata's smile was genuine. Once they had gotten to the cafe, Sakura ordered green tea and enmitsu, while Hinata ordered black tea and a cinnamon roll, her favorite treat. Hinata was glad Sakura had agreed to come here, as she loved sweets. Once they had found a table and began to dig in, Sakura's expression changed abruptly. Hinata, do you mind doing me a favor? Hinata wiped the icing from her lips and looked up at Sakura. Yes, what is it? This is going to sound weird, but can you use your Byakugan to see if anyone is following us or listening in on what we're saying? She asked. Hinata paused. What? Why would someone be doing that? She figured maybe Sakura would explain if she did it. Oh, okay, Sakura-chan. She activated her Byakugan silently, as the veins around her eyes bulged forward, and her once pupilless eyes showed pronounced pupils in the middle of them. She eyed the entire area, behind, below, left, right, up. She didn't anything that would arouse suspicion. I don't see anything unusual. She determined. Sakura exhaled. She seemed to visibly relax, as if something was making her tense up. She leaned in and lowered her voice. I did that because I wanted to make sure no one would hear our conversation. I wanted to speak to you about Naruto. She explained. Hinata stiffened, her eyes going wide and an unsettling feeling growing in her stomach. Sakura-chan, I know he ran off. The Hokage briefed Sasuke-kun and me this morning. And I know that something happened between you two before he left. You don't have to tell me anything about that. I just want to know how you're doing. Are you okay? She asked her. Hinata looked down at her hands folded in her lap. She wasn't sure, to be honest. Was she okay? I am fine, Sakura-chan. She lied. Sakura raised an eyebrow. Are you really? Hinata sighed. I don't think so, actually. She admitted, but I want to be. Sakura's eyes turned sad. I'm worried about you. I know how you feel about him. Hinata jumped in her seat, looking up to Sakura's worried expression. Why, you do? Sakura smiled. Of course I do. I see the way you look at him. You love him. It's the same way I look at Sasuke-kun. It's not something to be worried about, I won't tell. And I noticed that a couple of days before he left, he started looking back at you the same way, just so you know. She winked. Hinata's face burned, her cheeks turning crimson as she looked down at her lap again. Oh no, there's no way he feels that way about me. We were just friends. I mean, why would he like me? Hinata! Don't talk like that. Sakura scolded. You are the nicest girl I've ever met. You're kind, gentle, strong, and you've got the patience of a saint from dealing with both Naruto and Kiba on a regular basis. Not to mention you're a beautiful kick-ass kunoichi. There's no reason for him not to fall for you. Hinata searched Sakura's face, checking for any signs that she was joking. There were none. Sakura really thought that about her. She wasn't used to getting compliments like that, especially when she was around her family as much as she was. It felt really nice for someone to say that and actually mean it. Thank you, Sakura-chan. That means a lot. You're amazing too. Sakura's visage went from cheerful to somber in an instant. No, I'm not. Hinata was taken back by this. What do you mean? Sakura sighed. I've been really mean to Naruto in the past. I'm not like you, Hinata. I let my frustration get the better of me. He's been through so much, and I just piled on. But when he gets back, I'm going to be a good friend and teammate to him, no matter what. I've promised myself that. You need to promise yourself something too. Like what? She asked. Sakura smiled again. Promise yourself that until Naruto gets back, you'll work as hard as you can to become as strong as possible, so he'll be super impressed, and so you'll always be able to back him up. And promise yourself that when he gets back, you won't hold back how you feel anymore. Be confident, and show him that there's no one else out there like you. You're not just someone from the Hyuga clan, or a girl who loves Naruto, you're Hinata and you're your own person too. Hinata stared at Sakura for a moment, in awe of the determination and confidence she exuded. She was right. If Hinata wanted to help Naruto, she couldn't keep wallowing in self-pity. She had to grow, find out who she really is, let her individuality come forth, and she had to become as strong as possible, mentally, physically, and spiritually. She had her new goal. For the first time since Naruto left, she felt a twinge of happiness. She had a new goal, and a new friend. A few tears spilled out from her pale lavender eyes. Thank you, Sakura-chan. Sasuke slammed his front door shut, making sure to lock it. He exhaled, and dropped to the floor. Ever since training ended that day, he had immediately sprinted back home as fast as he could, avoiding a certain platinum blonde who had her sights set on him. Ino Yamanaka was really pissing him off. He shuddered at the memory of joining Team 10 for training yesterday. Flashback. Sasuke walked up to the training grounds to begin a new day of training. He wasn't sure how to feel being put with Asuma-sensei and Team 10. He didn't have a problem with any of them, except for Ino. Ino was such a fangirl for him, it was embarrassing. He couldn't stand her constant bickering with Sakura, or her ogling him every chance she got. And the way she shouted his name made him cringe. As he came into the view of the others, right on cue Ino screamed out to him, Sasuke-kun. What are you doing here? As she shouted, she ran up to him, giggling and blushing. He groaned in annoyance. Quiet, Ino, Asuma ordered her. Kakashi is away on an S-rank mission at the moment, so Sasuke will be joining us for training until he returns. You are all to treat him as if he's a member of the squad, understand? All 3 members of Team 10 straightened up. Yes, Asuma-sensei. They all said in unison. Eep. Squealed Ino, this is exciting. Sasuke-kun training with us. Yay. Shut up, Ino, Shikamaru began. You're turning this into such a drag. Can you stop being a fangirl for 5 minutes? Geez, women are so troublesome. Sasuke smirked. Alright everyone. Today, we are going to work on our taijutsu. This squad could use some improvement in that area. Split into teams of 2. Asuma told them. I call Sasuke-kun as my partner. Ino exclaimed loudly. Sasuke rolled his eyes. How could the Hokage do this to him? Today hadn't been any better. Any time Ino had an opportunity, she was draped over him. He just wanted to train and get stronger. Was that too much to ask? Sasuke dropped his backpack and trudged over into the bathroom, stripping himself of his dirty clothes. He turned on the shower, and hopped inside, wanting to get rid of the sweat and grime coating his body. He needed to get Ino's germs off of him. He knew he was overreacting perhaps, but that Ino girl really rubbed him the wrong way. What he found to be rather confusing was the fact that Ino bothered him a lot more than Sakura did. They both seemed to have the same infatuation for him, and both of them fangirled over him like crazy. And while Sakura's displays did get on his nerves, it was easy for him to deal with it. With Ino, he felt like he would die if he had to be around her for another second. Maybe it was because underneath all the squealing and giggling, Sakura actually cared about him as a person. He didn't always think she did, and he detested that. That's why he's always been annoyed by his little fangirls. They don't even know him. They don't care about his feelings, they just like his cool guy facade and good looks. But with Sakura, it's a bit different. Underneath her tough exterior, Sakura has a kind heart. It's because of that quality that he feels that maybe she does actually care about who he is on the inside as well. Of course it didn't matter. He didn't have the time for something like romance. Once Naruto was back and up on his feet again, Sasuke would be back to the mission of defeating Itachi. No more distractions. He turned the knob in the shower, and the spraying water came to a halt. He stepped out and dried himself off before getting dressed into a pair of black sweatpants and a white t-shirt. He didn't feel like going back out for the day. He needed to focus on how he would help Naruto once he returned. He never had a need for a friend, and the two of them have always butted heads, but maybe he could be Naruto's friend after all. Naruto needed people to be there for him. What Sasuke found troubling was one glaring similarity between Naruto and himself. Naruto had gotten into this predicament because he tried to take everything on himself. He didn't reach out for any help, or try to make others understand. He tried to do it all alone. Sasuke had always been that way too, he still was. Now, he was questioning it. Was it wrong for him to be a loner? Was it wrong to try and do it all by yourself? He had always thought it was necessary, but seeing it on the outside looking in was different. He wasn't happy about Naruto doing it, so why was it different for him? He sighed. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was a mistake for him not to rely on the help of others every now and then. He had people who would be there for him, so why should he shut them out? It was all too confusing, and he mentally cursed Naruto for making him feel this way. Speaking of Naruto, I wonder what the dobe is doing right now. She lay in the bathtub, soaked from the neck down. She had been in there for a while, replaying the day's wild events, learning about Naruto, training with Team 8, and her lovely evening with Hinata. It had been an eventful day indeed. She had planned on being nicer to Naruto before, but now that she knew the truth she knew she had to do more. Naruto needed more than just a friend, he needed guidance, support, someone he could trust and depend on. A true comrade and teammate. She would do that for him, he deserved it. Something else he deserved was love. That was one of the reasons she had talked with Hinata today. She knew Hinata loved Naruto, honestly most people probably knew, except Naruto of course. Naruto had always chased after her, until a few days ago. She remembered being pleasantly surprised after the teams were announced when Naruto immediately went over to speak with Hinata instead of her. The look in his eyes was unmistakable. It was clear to her that Hinata was special to him. He hung on to her every word like they were pure gold. He definitely had feelings for her too. Even if she couldn't have Sasuke in the end, Naruto and Hinata have both dealt with a lot of pain and deserve some happiness. She wanted that for both of them. She reluctantly stood up to get out of the bath whenever the water started to cool off. She grabbed a towel off the rack and wrapped it around herself, shivering against the cool air of the bathroom. She wondered where Naruto was, or if Kakashi had found him yet. She hoped they would be back soon and everything would work out. Then again, Naruto was a trickster, so he might be hard to find. She was dying to know. She decided that tomorrow morning she would go ask the Hokage for an update on the situation. She wouldn't be able to relax until her team was back together. Maybe they hadn't been Team 7 for very long, but that didn't matter. They were still a team, and one of their own was going through a lot of grief and heartache. She wouldn't allow it to continue. She and Sasuke had vowed to be the best teammates they could be for Naruto, and that's what they would do, no matter what. Hiruzen sat at his desk, eyes red, dark circles under them. He yawned for about the 100th time that day. To say he was exhausted was an understatement. He had barely gotten a wink of sleep since this fiasco began. Even if he had the time, he couldn't get his mind to relax. He was so concerned about where Naruto was. Was he okay? Was he hurt? Had he been captured? Any luck on Kakashi's end? There were so many questions and no answers. Furthermore, there was the Danzo situation. Tenzo had been tailing him, and any minute now he was due to give Hiruzen his report. He hoped that there would be something worthwhile to come from this endeavor. Just then, there was a flash in front of him, and his tired eyes rested on the form of Tenzo, wearing his mask. Lord Hokage, I'm here to give my report. Yes, I've been expecting you. Please tell me what you found. Hiruzen responded. Tenzo bowed before the Hokage, then straightened before delivering his report. So far, my lord, nothing unusual was discovered during my tale of Danzo. However, there was one point during the day that I was unable to follow him. His whereabouts seemed suspicious. Hiruzen raises a brow at this. Go on. Well, sir, he seemed to enter an underground room that is situated in an old building in the village. I was unable to find an appropriate place to hide during his descent, so I could not follow without being caught. However, I planted a seed on him, so from now on I will know where he is constantly. He was down there for about an hour before he returned. From there, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. He simply stopped by a shop to get some tea before retiring to his home. Tenzo concluded. I see, replied Hiruzen. All right, Tenzo. I want you to find out what Danzo is doing underground at all costs. Do you understand? Tenzo bowed. Yes, sir, of course. You are dismissed. And in a flash, he was gone. So, Danzo was underground, huh? This could only mean one thing to Hiruzen Root. An organization of ANBU that Danzo had run for years. Hiruzen has trusted him with it until the Uchiha incident, where he officially stripped that power from him. If Danzo was still secretly running it, there would be hell to pay. Hiruzen yawned again and pinched the bridge of his nose. He looked out the window of his office, wondering about Naruto once again. Will this nightmare ever end? She lay in her bed, finally feeling happy at the thought of sleep. They had a mission tomorrow, so she would need to get plenty of rest. She kept replaying her conversation with Sakura over and over in her mind. She was so grateful to have someone so supportive on her side. She needed a real friend, and she felt like she had that. It helped. But at night, alone in her room, her thoughts inevitably drifted back to deep blue eyes and whiskers. As she looked up out of her window, she took notice of how many stars there were out tonight. They were so bright, and full of life. They reminded her of him, and her heart hurt. But she would not cry. She would move forward, stronger than ever. She would be strong for him. No matter what. She had already promised herself that. No more crying. No more feeling sorry for herself. She was Hinata Hyuga, a kunoichi, not a helpless little girl. As she lay looking at the stars, she had no idea that elsewhere, someone else was looking up to the night sky. Someone with bright blonde hair and ocean blue eyes. But he did not focus on the stars, no. They held no interest for him. What he looked at was the moon. It was full and beautiful tonight. It reminded him of her eyes, her gorgeous, pale eyes that mesmerized him. He felt more heartache every time his gaze landed on it, but there was no stopping it. He cursed himself when a tear escaped. He didn't want to keep looking, but it couldn't be helped. If the moon was all he had left of her in his life, then he would cherish it, always. What if Naruto stops caring about chunin exams? And thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel. And leave a like if you guys need the next part. Comment down and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.